Hey, this is Jim McDonald. Hope you had a good Christmas or whichever holiday you're celebrating right around this time of year. This episode is the most popularly downloaded episode of 2017. It is our show with Kelly Starrett and Matt Vincent. We had a great time talking to them as usual, but it really just turned into kind of something else. It really just became a conversation among friends that you maybe were just kind of eavesdropping on. Anyway, we really enjoyed it, and it really resonated apparently with a lot of you. So thank you for making this one the biggest one ever. And I should point out to you, however, that if you are a fan of Matt Vincent and you're not listening to his podcast, which is called UMSO, you're not doing yourself any favors. So check that out it's on all the platforms, iTunes and all that stuff, Apple Podcasts, whatever they're calling it right now. Be sure to check it out. Like and share this video, and we'll be back. We'll be back. Oh yeah, and don't forget the Compex deal is still on. Use the code PowerCast30, get 30% off of the lowest price on all but the lowest price model, and free shipping through December 31st. So be sure to check that out.
Support for this episode of the PowerCast comes from Precision Nutrition, home of the world's top nutrition coaches. Head over to get.pn/PowerCast for a free nutrition course, especially for PowerCast listeners, focusing on the role of carbs. That's get.pn/PowerCast. Reebok.com, home of the legacy lifting shoe, the official shoe of the PowerCast at Reebok.com. 8Man Strong apparel for people who lift heavy weights at 8manstrong.com. Compex Muscle Stim products at CompexUSA.com. Use the code PowerCast for an additional 28% off all but the lowest price model. HowMuchYouBench.net. Use the code PowerCast for 15% off slingshots and free shipping on orders over $100. And Bodybuilding.com, the world's largest fitness website and supplement store. Bodybuilding.com has free plans for every level. Visit bodybuilding.com today to become your best self. Mark Bell's PowerCast is also sponsored by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps weightlifters get special life insurance rates. They are also the official life insurance partner of USA Weightlifting. To see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/PowerCast or mention the promo code PowerCast when you talk to a Health IQ agent.
Recorded live in West Sacramento, California, this is Mark Bell's PowerCast. Standing just to the left of Jim McD, here's your host, Mark Bell.
We're going to end up holding hands.
Adjust yourself.
Well, your microphone, however you want to. Adjust yourself, adjust your
Superman
microphone.
and Jesus up here? It's a deadly combo.
And Bo Jackson.
I know which one.
And Mark Wahlberg.
That's one of those weird, I know that if I was picking teams for Red Rover right now, which one I would get.
Look at how fake Mark Wahlberg's triceps are on the cover of Muscle and Fitness. Look at this.
They would never fake anything on the cover of that magazine.
Oh, my God. Look,
Muscle
look
and
that.
Fiction.
Take a look at that.
Can you
Look at
reproduce that tricep look? You have to be a little internally rotated.
Blow it out. That's why they don't have a background, because you can see
fat,
the warp.
slabby tricep that they slapped on him there. How did he get so jacked like that?
He just did that arm.
That's a good
Think about
question.
if all you did was left tricep. You'd have tons of time.
Like left Twix.
Yeah, just
Yeah, I
blow
guess.
that one up.
I'm confused.
You can do a ton of volume that way.
Did you say left
Twix?
Yes, I did.
One muscle.
What happens if you turn upside down?
Still left Twix,
It's still
son.
left Twix. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, now they sell left Twix, right Twix, like in packages. Different.
I always
packages,
threw
yeah.
one away.
Yeah.
So,
Did you really?
Kelly, you have a certain way of cooking bacon. You think that it's possible to cook it in an oven, and you have your own style, right? Like, you guys don't seems like you guys are eye to eye on a lot of things. But this particular topic
There's some
seemed to go on
lines that
south
have been drawn
a bit.
in the sand.
It seems like quite the argument going on here.
Kelly's a busy guy and doesn't have time to cook bacon. We'll call it the correct way.
So, like, let's say it's all context specific. You are in Louisiana
Yeah.
at a gas station.
Yes.
Making 30 pounds of bacon.
In the morning.
Your pan is your go-to.
You're going to have to, no, you're going to cook it in a pan because it produces a better quality product.
If you're in a restaurant and you need to have nice laid out bacon, you bake it.
What restaurant have you worked in?
Lots of them.
Never.
No?
We're in Nepal.
I worked at a restaurant in Nepal.
Of course you did.
cooking MC is like a pound of bacon.
That's right. That's
Right?
where I learned that.
Yeah, but it
mine
doesn't say anything about a pan.
Yeah.
It does say with the pan. You
Mama
don't
cooked
do it
the
in the
breakfast
oven.
with no hot
Bacon
oven.
is fried. You can't fry anything in the oven.
You can fry everything in the South, though. That's your fact.
That is also very, very true. The South is very key.
Iced tea.
The South is
What
very
is that?
fat.
That thing, a hush puppy? That's just like fried.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
You
it's
take
a-
the fried
it's
stuff and you
fried-
fry the fried.
Well, hush puppy is basically a fried cornbread ball with other fixins in it.
But when you fry the bacon in the South, you add fat, right?
Well, eventually
fry it
you
in
run
fat.
enough bacon through the pan that there's a good you're deep
build-up.
frying
Yeah,
at some
there's a
point.
layer.
This is actually this is a
Seasoning.
perfect
Call
segue
it
for
seasoning.
Matt's obsession with fat.
30 pounds of bacon.
So the other day, a box comes to my house
Oh no.
addressed to Matt Vincent, and I'm like, oh, Matt has sent something to me from Amazon.
In the past, I've had stuff shipped to his house while I was there.
So you know, on Amazon, you can sometimes just
Right,
deselect
change
it.
it.
So, but
Did you
I
go
don't
check
know
the pool
that.
house to make sure he wasn't squatting out there?
I open it up, and there's a huge inflatable swan, like a big white swan. And I'm like, man, he loves us, and he knows my girls love pool toys. And I'm like, what's making this box so heavy? And it's like a 1-gallon bottle of coconut oil.
That's awesome.
And that's what he sent us. A white swan of coconut oil. And I
That's
literally
a
like took a
party.
picture. I'm like, did you mean to send this? What is this?
Reminds me of the time I bought tuna fish, mayonnaise, and a plunger at a
They all come
grocery
in the same
store.
box?
But I couldn't have done that through the internet back then. I had to go through the shame of going to the grocery store.
just buying those three things together.
I make a pretty good mean like pancake, all-inclusive pancake for my daughter. One of my daughters, she loves this. And but every time I squirt that coconut, I'm like, this is not what this is intended for. And like
It's
this
not
morning,
a
I
body
was like,
lube.
oh,
Coconut oil is honestly one of the best products ever. It's delicious. You can.
What are you trying to do? It cook with it?
yeah,
It's a body lube.
Antifungal.
Antifungal.
Naked swan wrestling. And Matt was talking about how for those people who don't know, sometimes you do your Q&As in the hot tub.
Yeah, in the mornings.
Naked.
On Tuesdays.
Naked, yes.
What? It's a hot tub in my backyard. I'm not gonna wear clothes in it. It's just another thing I got to dry later
Get
on.
coconut oil on your pants. I hate that.
Right. I grease up before
I
get
actually
in.
do have like oil stains on all my shirts, like I'm a goddamn mechanic. Just because I'm in ketosis.
That's right. It just comes
kind of
out of you.
Yeah,
Food
I'm looking at my
mechanic.
shirts. And I'm like, shit. There's another oil spot on that one. I got to keep washing everything up.
Washing it.
And then for some reason, we're always out of that. Like, probably because we have kids, we're always out of that spray that gets rid of the stains.
Yeah.
It's always low. I can't ever get anything out of the goddamn bottle.
Those sticks.
Son of a bitch. So
coming
you
like
worked
one
at
of
a
those
goddamn
magnum-
gas station making
Did
bacon?
that was my second job ever. Was working at a gas station.
Well, you were
So
getting
it's-
rich.
Oh,
$5.15
man,
an hour.
$5.15 an hour. I was killing it working those hours. Sweet high school hours of 3 a.m. till 1 p.m.
Is this bacon gas station still around?
Oh yeah, Cajun Fast Mart is still running.
Are
I
you
bet you
thinking
had-
about going back to work there?
I don't know that I'd fit
I'll
in
run
so
this
good
town.
anymore. They've changed up a lot. They don't have the deli like they used to anymore. It's a little nicer now, and I don't like the feel of it.
But you had
Oh, they
access.
upgraded.
You had access to some quality apparel, some
That's right.
trucker hats, some
I did.
T-shirts.
I had a sweet Cajun Fast Mart shirt, and then I think at the time I was also running a scam in high school because I was closing and had responsibility because then I could sell beer to friends of mine.
I think you guys should have
Statute of
a-
limitations,
You were that guy,
right?
You know what?
Oh yeah, I'm selling beer for
do see eye
$30
on
a
eye lot.
case of Bud Light. I was doing great.
When I was a sophomore, I was in charge of raising money in my high school for my class to pay for prom as junior senior, and I was like, no problem. Everyone's like, what are we gonna do? And I was like, no problem. So I ran a illegal candy sale out of the office, and we got shut down after we literally had like $10,000 or $15,000. They're like,
no.
you can't be selling candy to everyone, but we pushed candy all over the place.
You're right.
The principal pulled me in, and I was like, what?
What's the problem?
You told me to raise money.
You're like, what's up?
Beer, candy sales, same.
You know what, Matt
Gotta have a
Vincent?
hustle.
I don't think that you and I would be friends with Kelly Starrett if we met him when we were kids.
No, he's
You know why?
He's very active.
Well, there's that.
Skinny men think too
But
much.
he's really smart.
Yeah, that's a big
He's a
problem.
doctor.
Right. We are not.
And we're the opposite of that.
You and I basically have the
We'd be
same
like, I don't like
college
that
education.
smart guy over there.
But what's ironic though is so Juliet, my wife, is an attorney, and she worked at a big fancy law firm, and there was a guy in there who'd gone to Harvard undergrad and like Yale Law School, and he was very fancy. And she's like, hey, you know, we have the same student loan debt. And we work at the same job. Isn't that funny? I went to Cal Public High School. Nailed it. And she's like, isn't that weird? And I feel like we're all doing the same thing right now. It doesn't matter.
We're
Like,
the
why
same
did I
income.
even go to grad school? This is bullshit.
It's no good.
I don't know. We'd been friends.
Well,
I threw the shot put in high school.
did you?
Son, I glided to a whopping 46
What were you
feet.
weighing
46.
as a sweet high school senior? Like a $130?
Oh, man. No.
Getting ready to go raft in
no,
Nepal and wear puka shell necklaces and cruise
The
around.
sweatshirt tied around his neck, right? That's what I'm envisioning.
You know that every bad guy 80s villain from a high school film was
yeah.
based on Kelly.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that 13-year-old picture of my passport?
Yo,
that we put?
it's so good.
Dude,
You're so smirky in
and
it.
emo.
Oh. Just already shoulders back. God.
Looking all mad?
I had hair, but
Just-
mad with hair.
Oh, just
Oh,
his
it's emo.
helmet.
Yeah.
It's his helmet of
13,
hair.
13.
I'm the only one amongst us who has a good head of hair right now.
I power cleaned.
Let me see. Let us see. Show us.
You do
That
have
ain't
a nice
bad.
head of hair.
That
Yeah.
ain't bad.
Well, you're doing something in your free time now that you're unemployed.
It's true.
and,
what
and
happened?
convalescing.
Well,
What happened with that?
the people that I was working for decided
They don't like your
they
YouTube videos.
They think that their business would be better off not paying me.
They're like, we're going to be better off if you leave.
Yeah, they were
That's
like,
kind of what they
we'd
said.
like you to take a couple weeks off. We have some severance for you, and then we're going to stop giving you paychecks.
Oh, like Cena
All right,
said,
yeah,
the
yeah,
2-week break, and
John Cena.
then don't come back.
Yeah, it
Take
wasn't
2
great.
weeks off and quit is the exact words.
Yeah, so they decided to go a different direction, and I'm not part of that direction.
It's better. Right now, you're going to need to spend some time getting your legs back on. I mean, what do you weigh right now? 245?
245, yeah.
Like on the dot?
Give or take, depending on the current bloat. I'd float between 245
Good job,
and
Fat
250.
Dan. Fat Dan
I think
just
the
broke
lowest I've
one of our
ever seen
cameras.
is 230.
What'd you
No,
weigh?
the lowest I've ever seen is like 243.
What'd you weigh in high school when you graduated?
Graduated high school at 265.
Birth?
Yeah.
What'd you weigh at birth?
I was like
210?
140. Yeah.
What'd you weigh in high school?
The most
Senior.
I weighed was 240 in high
240
school.
in high
I was
school?
What
about
were
16
you
or so.
eighth grade going into high school?
Oh, that's a mean question. That's the truth question, though, right?
I was
probably.
I was $165.
I was
eighth
still
and
probably.
ninth grade.
I think I was.
Did you
still over
invent
200
Winstrol in
pounds.
high school? Is that
Apparently put on 100 pounds in 4 years. If you think about it, we're only talking about 2 pounds a month for 4 years. That's not that big a deal.
3
That's
words.
consistent
30
bulking.
pounds of bacon.
Yeah.
Gas
I ate
station.
some bacon when I worked there.
Well,
We
you're-
were
in
allowed to eat
Louisiana-
anything from the deli for free.
Louisiana, you're pretty close to that Mexican border.
No,
Geography's not
the
a
whole
strong
state,
point.
and it's Texas. It's huge.
Not a doctor of geography.
I actually was a geography major. But my point is, you were.
Geology
Did you have
major.
access to like cheap Mexican milk or like with all the HGH in it? I mean,
I wish.
that's what I have to keep importing for my girls.
Man, I felt really bad. 'cause,
Mexican milk?
Yeah, it's just like massive amounts of bovine growth hormone in there. If you can get your access on, it's like free.
It's like Mexican Coke, but it's
Oh, it's muscle milk.
oh,
Yeah. Fight milk.
Cytosport.
fight milk,
It's for bodyguards, made by bodyguards.
pretty much.
Back to this whole bacon thing. I'm kind of fascinated by it. I think you guys should have a cook-off.
I'd kill him in bacon. You can just use your oven, I guess, and then go sit on the couch and send some emails. I'll tin the bacon
My bespoke bacon.
with your arms up here so you don't get
Dude,
text neck.
you're gonna burn all your bits naked, boy. Or is that what the oil's for?
I'm
Protecting
not cooking naked. I'm in the hot tub naked. These are vastly different things.
I'm afraid that would have to be part of
I'm
this
not cooking
competition.
bacon in the hot tub.
were we
Jesse
just
Burdick
talking
and I have a
about-
buffalo wing service that we're gonna sell out of a hot tub.
Like you guys in the back of one of those really long limousines with
queasy.
that's your
It's a long story, but
or is the hot tub like the mixing bowl like you guys
no.
make in
We're
jambalaya?
in a hot tub and it's like a fast food place, and you like pull up to it and we serve buffalo wings.
You guys just sit there and like,
Yeah,
do you just scoop them out next to you and like
It
keeping them
sounds-
warm for you?
I know it sounds insane, but you guys probably don't have the forward-thinking mind to like understand
It's
a
a
business
jumping off
model.
point.
A business model.
Our
like this.
CEO Dave is here, but was I telling the story where they have in Washington they have like hot coffee and cowgirl coffee where you pull up an espresso shop and it's a girl in a bikini.
Nah, we did that in the South. It didn't
Did you
feel
guys?
so good.
It's because you're simultaneously.
That's
this is a
somebody's
great
house,
idea.
Yeah.
This is a great idea, and then you
was
show
bad.
up and it's really embarrassing, and like that's someone's daughter, and is she gonna get scalded? I mean, that's what the problem
Yeah.
is.
That's what I said.
You wearing a bikini getting scalded is sort of the image.
I didn't cook bacon in a bikini. These are
You don't
different
have
times
proof?
in my
You have
life.
proof. I think it's so weird that you were covering yourself in oil, cooking bacon,
Cooking
at a
bacon?
gas station.
Covering yourself in oil to cook bacon is like wearing a bulletproof vest. The oil
Yeah.
can't get through the other oil.
There's some kind of logic to that.
Perfect logic.
Cooking bacon with a shirt off is like really dangerous.
A spit take.
We caught
No. And we're back. Not so supple now, is he?
For your
His triceps are even smearier.
for our audio audience, Kelly just sprayed water.
Squirted.
He just shamued the hell out of this thing. Rest in peace,
I'm
Shamu.
back. I'm
That's
okay.
awesome. Yes.
Dude, how's rehab going?
Rehab's going well. Crunking through this busted whip. Got this old.
What are you addicted to?
Right now, it's been ribeyes.
Ribeyes.
Hammering ribeye steaks.
So how's the rehab for that? It's like, what do they do?
So other than me eating ribeyes, for ribeye for my bum knee has been a ton of occlusion training, which has been, I think, a huge help. And that's something I really wasn't that familiar with
So your
in my
knee
training.
was like, it was doing
3
okay
surgeries.
for a while.
Yeah, so
Well, that's actually how I met Matt through you. You were
Yeah.
like, hey, my friend, there's a
He had a
picture
gay
in
ankle.
Power.
yeah.
There was a picture in Power Magazine cleaning 400. And I was
Yeah.
like, what's wrong with his ankle? And you're like, that's the wrong question.
Yeah,
You
the
had a
ankle doesn't
cheap
move.
ankle
Don't worry
going
about
on?
that thing. Left ankle doesn't move. The right knee's not so good. It's all right. I've earned all these things. I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't go back and be like, oh, let's play it safer. Like, fuck that.
But all the sports and all the different things you did, then what led to this injury was figure 4 leg lock by Ric
was.
Flair, right? And you couldn't get to the ropes.
To the ropes to get out.
The Bella twins had me down.
Yeah.
I was almost there, and then he dragged me back.
He dragged
across
you
the
back
ring.
right in the middle of the
You
ring.
bring an interesting point up, though, because I think there are a lot of athletes in this position where you're having to continue to do your sport. When's a good time for you to take a season off and get your ACL fixed?
Never. It's
When's
never.
your time to take off 3 months of heavy training? I mean, same thing with the elbow on
Yeah.
the bench, right? It's hard to say, hey, I'm just going to chill for a while
year?
and have 3
Yeah.
surgeries. to
Well,
reset
it
this
wasn't
thing.
the plan to have 3 surgeries. We were really hoping to knock it out in the first one, but things don't go always as planned, I guess.
So what happened?
So the first surgery I had November 28th was an Oates procedure. I'll let Kelly explain that because I'm not so smart. And then an ACL graft put in. And so we used a cadaver Achilles on the ACL graft. And they
From a dead guy.
from a dead guy.
Do you know this guy?
You can use your own. I was gonna try to take out Benedict because I figured his tendons are sweet.
But he's still alive.
He's still alive, so they frown on that. I was like, I can get you a tendon
By 4 o'clock.
by 4 o'clock.
yeah. Alive cadaver.
Oh yeah,
I like that.
there's people selling those in Baton Rouge. We'll find one on the
alive
streets.
parts.
Abby Normal.
Yeah, just show up with this one like in my hand. They're like, wait, what do you want us to do with that?
Put it in the microwave.
So, did that procedure and then had these floating bits of like a bone cartilage, just chunks around the knee, to where I could actually, at some point, squatting and moving, I would find it and I could push on it with my hand and it would disappear.
Ew.
Not ideal.
Have you ever had the other side examined?
The other side's sweet. Every time we do X-rays or
Oh, you've had it
MRI,
looked at, okay.
The other side's good.
Because I was wondering that with my elbow. Like, got my elbow looked at. I'm like, I wonder if the right side's just as bad as the left.
My left knee is good to
Just
go.
shiny white ball of light in there, Mark. Sometimes it's a little duller, sometimes a little brighter, but a white ball of light. That's all you have to think of.
That's it.
Don't get a picture of yourself, people.
No, I know.
Then you know.
Only get a picture of yourself because you can't solve it, and you're going to do something like stick a needle in it,
Right.
Yeah.
right? Have a surgery.
Because there's going to be something bad in there anyway.
well,
Probably.
human being, we're imperfect, and that really gets under the head of athletes. So you knew you were missing an ACL for a long time, and we're banging around for a long time.
Right. Yeah, I did 10 years. So I had an ACL reconstruction in 2001 in college. Retore that at a skate park 5 years later. It happens.
Habit.
Yeah, you got to get out there and shred.
This is force of habit.
Yeah, get out there and shred. I saved some kid's life blowing that ACL up.
I saw Deadpool.
So right. And so destroyed the ACL and then decided not to fix it. And then did 10 years or more than that without one. And John Wellborn broke me and had me squatting and tore my meniscus last year.
Was that after I gave you rhabdo on the stairs?
Yeah, I post all that. It was great.
You're welcome.
So all my friends have been wildly helpful.
So
Everyone's out
basically,
to break you.
the moral of the story is that like shit happens, right? I mean,
Shit happens.
you have knowledge.
Yep.
You have friends that have knowledge. You're trying to train the best you can. You're trying to train optimally, but you're also going fucking full blast. You're Highland Game, 2-time Highland Game champion. And when you're at that level, sometimes shit just kind of falls off, right?
Yeah.
Well, or think about it this way: that your ACL is not an optional piece, but think of it as a seatbelt, right? And Matt doesn't decelerate his car just by using the seatbelt and running into the wall, but you still need your seatbelts. And you got away with it for a long time, right?
Yep.
Sport just happens, and then you can train on it because you did a good job with your diet. You move really well. You take care of your tissues, and I think that's the missing piece. I think we can, for the average person who has, let's say, patina of athletic experience. Patina. You're patinaed. Not marbled, patinaed. Shut up. I learned that in doctoral school. And the idea here is that
Mr. T and patina.
He's been making up words since I've known him.
I know he does.
It's really bad.
Hey, back here.
Oh.
So, but the idea is if you take care of yourself, you can actually buffer a lot of dysfunction for a long time. Right?
Yeah.
You know, that's the piece, right?
Absolutely.
Deal with it when you cannot get it.
Yeah, I mean, and that was, why fix what's not broken, right? So I was still competing at a high level, and then finally last year after we did the meniscus tear and then cleaned it up, the meniscus tear was the first thing that really slowed me down because it hurt.
It wasn't just swelling; it was pain.
Yeah, it was pain, and then my knee wasn't working so good, and so that I can't.
So it started
I can't
affecting
just
your
gut
life.
through it, right?
It's affecting your life outside of your
And that's
sport.
really the best. That's the best reason to have surgery. I should have surgery because I can't get around pain. And then obviously talk to your doctor.
Right.
Mileage will vary, but that's a good reason. Hey, we can't break this because that chronic pain thing is a problem.
No, it's
Right.
brutal. The last round of surgeries is the first time I've ever, in my history of athletics, have ever dealt with what I would consider chronic pain. That no matter what I was taking, I just couldn't get away from the knee making noise. It was
Super frustrating.
Man, it was always at a pain level of somewhere between a 2 and an 8. And when it got really hot, it would do cool stuff. Like it got really sharp pains when I exhale. So that's easy to avoid. And then there's just nothing you can do.
Of the time.
Suck it up, literally. Just don't let it out.
So just sitting around, there'd be a pain level of 2 if you're just sitting there watching a movie on your couch
Or it could be
whatever.
an 8.
Okay.
It just would, if I slept weird on it or something like that, or like
No, you called me a little bit gristly. You were like,
yeah,
I'm hurting, dude.
Bummed out. Yeah. It was really rough because I don't like the way I feel eating pain meds. I don't enjoy that, and so trying to figure out another option
makes it irritable.
Yeah, and
then you're not getting your training, so that makes you more irritable,
Right.
and you're just kind of grumpy. You know what I mean? It's a bummer, right?
Yeah, they made a medication change on me, put me on some Celebrex, an anti-inflammatory, and that cleaned me up and lasted a month. And then I pissed it off again, but now it's cool again without any meds. And so as soon as that Celebrex hit, in 24 hours, it was so nice that I wasn't in pain. I trained. It's like the first thing I was thinking, I feel good. I'm going to lift today because I feel good today.
This is also an important piece. When people are rehabbing an injury, if you let your desire to train be a good guide, because there's days where like, hey, I'm a little sleepy or I'm stressed, but that desire to train for most of the people listening is very high. Like we like to train, we like to lift. I wake up in the morning, and when I am not thinking about what I'm going to train for the day, that's a pretty good indicator that I'm cooked. I should probably do something else. But otherwise, I kind of wake up being like, I wonder what I'm doing today. You know, or, hey, when am I going to hit that? And that's that's your nervous system guarding. And if you really develop that consciousness again, it can really guide you about how hard to push and when to push. But I think most of us are so shut down from that. We're not sleeping right, or we're not sleeping enough. We're self-medicating to go to sleep.
Right.
And then we're waking up and having 6 bulletproof coffees and Adderall and whatever else.
Uppers and downers.
Yeah, and really
elevator rides.
We're never feeling it. I can't tell if I'm tired, and I can't tell if I'm didn't sleep enough. It really is.
Yeah, this has been really strange for me. This is the first time in a long time to know that I'm not competing. It's something.
Yeah. When's the last
right?
time you didn't compete?
2007, 2006, maybe.
Long time.
Right.
But because of that, you've made competitions for yourself.
Yeah.
Made goals for yourself so you can
different
lose
goals.
weight,
So, lose weight,
more weight.
And decide that that's the focus. And then stay focused on doing well at the things that I can do.
When's the last time you really made a commitment to kind of, hey, I'm going to just control what I control now, which may be different than what I've been doing. But you've put 245. I mean, you really this is the
40
first
pounds.
time you've weighed this since high school.
Right. Yeah, I'm down 40 pounds in 6 months. Something like that. So,
let me ask you: are you concerned that you're not going to be able to eat enough pizza to put it back on?
God, whenever that gas pedal's turned back on to get back to 260, I could do it in 48 hours.
Get on it.
Do you think you'll have to weigh as much as you did previously to
to
get
be my
back?
best? Yeah.
280,
There's definitely an optimal
270.
weight, and I'm small for the average Highland Game guy. I mean, the
Yeah.
guys that I'm competing
They're
against,
monsters, taller,
top
stuff like that.
3 guys right now in the world are Dan McKim, who's 6'4", 320. And then Spencer Tyler's 6'4", 6'5", 340, and
They're monsters.
yeah, they're giant guys.
Yeah.
I don't have that, and so I mean everything's leverage and counterbalance and speed, and so I mean the heaviest I can be and still move fast and be strong is where I've got to be, if that's the goal.
Yeah. But it's so fun. I mean, you really played a lot with your weight. lock.
Oh,
down
yeah,
a
a ton, yeah.
Up a ton. I want to really work on my bench. You go back up. I think we sometimes don't. We get stuck in like, this is my weight. And
Right.
I don't think we ever sometimes play with that variable as an athlete. It's really fun to be light. It's fun to be heavy.
Yeah. Well, I
I've
always just
definitely-
think it's
yeah.
good to switch it up. You know, if you're going to be heavy for sport, why be heavy all the time for it if you don't have to be? Just unhealthy. You're going to run into some problems. So.
But maybe it's more expensive. That's right.
And what you said though, it's worth. I spent a lot of time competing at like 275, and so there was, well, what if I decide to let's pour it on, let's get stronger, and see what 285, 290 feels like, or let's see what 260 feels like, and so I did both of those, and my best window is always 275.
I've talked to a lot of athletes who have, you can actually ask them, hey, what's your favorite weight?
Yep.
And you can tell what kind of eating disorder they had as a kid.
Yeah. They got a precise number.
Yeah. Bill Romanowski, he had a playing weight. It was like 235.3. And he'd be like a little heavy, he'd back off. Like literally I was like 9.3. And if he was a little light, and he just felt like that was that magic number.
I have a 10-pound swing daily. That's just like, too much salt yesterday. I'm 251 now.
They only ate 22 pounds of bacon fried.
It's not bacon every day.
Could be.
Could be. Should be. Keto.
You can absorb that coconut oil accidentally through your skin.
That's the way I do it.
It's super frustrating to even try to get an answer medically. Like, how long did it take you to even find out, like figure out what you were going to do next?
When I tore the meniscus, I went in, and then the doctor was basically like, yep.
So you knew you tore it. There was like a moment where you did something?
Yeah, it was a single moment squatting where it just popped, and it was a moment of like, oh, that's different pain.
You were lifting by yourself? You couldn't come back
I was
up
at
with the
Wellborn
weight?
spot.
Oh, okay.
I had 315 on my back. I mean, to tear a meniscus,
Did you have to
feet
dump
planted,
the weight and
nope,
stuff? Or
no, I finished it up.
Oh, okay. You're
But,
fine.
I mean, I knew something was
But it hurt.
wonky.
So was your position normal and you just
Totally normal.
Everything
Just,
was normal. You weren't-
this
you weren't-
squat
you
didn't
didn't
have
screw up.
anything to do with what tore the meniscus.
Yeah.
This was just when it
wear and
happened.
tear?
Right? I mean,
Yeah, and most of us run around, these injuries, we accumulate trauma, and then it's just the straw that breaks the camel's back. It was not a perfect white ball of light in that knee.
No.
That movement, there's some sheer moment on that.
Yeah.
and hardly any. I mean, to have a meniscus tear not doing something where I'm moving and turning or anything, a static lift like a squat or a deadlift would be, it's really unheard of to have a meniscus tear doing something like that, and it just went. And so went in, and the doc after the MRI was like, your PCL's kind of jacked, your MCL's not looking great, your meniscus is shredded. You don't have an ACL.
We're going to jack up your kneecap,
Yeah.
put in a new knee. It's
Yeah.
going to be great. You'll love it.
You don't have an ACL, and the back of your patella looks really bad. So what are you thinking? I'm like, what can we do to get through the year? Because I've already got this lined up.
Yeah.
So he was like, we can fix the meniscus, do some cortisone shots. And I was like, let's get through the year, and then we'll sort this thing out.
Talk about competing with an injury.
Or hurt?
Because not hurt, injured. Like we have a mechanically deformed tissue. Can't just automatically. That really changes the color of your training, doesn't it?
It does, because as an athlete who was trying to compete at a high level and then travel a lot. So last year, post-injury, I did 23 competitions last season and spent 16 days in Scotland and did 11 games in 16 days.
That's a lot of competing.
It is, but I mean, Highland Games isn't strongman or
Right.
doing a powerlifting meet. Like, it doesn't trash your CNS. Nothing I'm throwing is heavy. The problem is if I'm guarded.
Problem is the whiskey.
The problem is if you get guarded, right, and I know that I'm not going to extend and push through that right hip and drive through the right knee, my hand's not going to line up and push. These other things aren't going to happen, and I can't compensate for it. And so the worst feeling of all that is like, I'd be like, all right, things feel okay today, and then I would take a throw, and you just miss it, and it just feels like you didn't even get to try.
Yeah.
Like your body's just betrayed you. It's like, we've done this so many times. Just do that thing we know how to do. And you just miss it. And like, I knew when that started happening.
That's your bodyguard. Well,
Yeah,
there you go.
right. And then
like
it's like
heavy, you
tearing.
can't go.
It's like tearing a big ugly callus off your hand, right? At some point, you just can't gut through it. Your body's
Yeah.
like, "Fuck you, man. What are you thinking? This feels
and
terrible."
you're like, where did my mastery go?
right. And and so
Sorry, hon.
I knew going through the season as that started happening, and because I couldn't train heavy to get stronger because of the knee, because it would take me out for a week if I really lifted heavy on it, or if I moved slightly wrong squatting or something like that, it would cost too much. And so if my goal is to compete more, my goal is not to squat more in the gym during the week leading up to it. So I'd spent time throwing. But throwing didn't seem to aggravate it at all.
And your And I think that's an interesting idea. Like, one is you really buckle down on making sure that you had gotten tissues right, taking care. Like, you couldn't.
Yeah, you spend a lot of time doing all this stuff.
Well, yeah,
your
I mean,
mobility, and you're doing a lot of different things.
I think that comes, man, with shit. I've been lifting strictly for sport since I was 13, right? And so at 20 years into this, and knowing that I've got injuries, and I'm a one-sided athlete for one as a thrower, so there's going to be a ton of imbalances. And anyone out there who's a thrower who thinks that they're going to stay balanced, like, you're just not going to be a good thrower. It's just, you don't have time. You don't have time to put in the reps to go both ways. And so, yeah,
it just goes for life in general.
Right.
You're not going to have good balance if you want to be great at anything.
Right.
Period.
That's just how it works. And
Or
so
I thought
there's
you were
a cost
talking
to pay.
going both ways.
I thought that too. Yes, that's where I was going.
You mean swinging from both sides of the plate?
Oh, yeah. Putting from the rough, as they call it.
Hey, now.
One of the interesting things is when you turn, you always turn left.
Yep.
And that puts your whole
What's
left
NASCAR?
side.
It's part of the South.
Truth. So you turn left, right?
I did not see that one coming.
I'll remind me to tell you another story, but turn left. That leg is
That's
stable.
like a little dance he's got going on.
Yeah, the left leg's always
But the right leg
has to
that's
swing out and
it has
kick.
to swing out, and
I mean-
that puts it into a little bit more vulnerable position.
Right. And
Especially
that-
around the meniscus,
and
'cause it's sort of an
everything
open
that's
shape.
generating power, right, is how far that I can put, the right knee, right hip in front of the shoulder and arm. So anything that I've got to do to get in that position and lead with the hip, I can't rely on the shoulder. It's just not strong enough.
It all sounds way too difficult.
It's like, luckily I found a sport that didn't require me to be that strong.
You know what's difficult? I actually I think about this all the time when you bench 900. I'm like, that's 20 plates on the bar. Do you know how exhausted I would be loading that? That's your problem, Marco.
I think it was 9:15.
Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Not who's counting.
Yeah, that didn't help my elbow at all.
Conk.
So like you and I made videos and stuff, and you've helped me with a bunch of different things, and then people go back and look at those videos and they're like, he wasn't able to do anything for your elbow, and this doesn't help.
People are awesome.
Well, what they don't realize is that what Kelly is trying to do, what he's trying to do for me, is he's trying to get to the root of the problem, which is there's a lack of mobility, and so therefore, the shoulder's tight, or this is tight, that's tight, and it's obviously putting more pressure in a bunch of different areas. In order to alleviate that or get that fixed, it could take a long period of time, and it probably
You didn't screw it up overnight.
Yeah, in addition to it taking a long period of time, it probably takes some time off. It's kind of the things I'm kind of recognizing.
You can't
now.
just be ringing the bell for sure all the time.
Right,
Because
like,
once
I
the
can't
tissue's
just-
irritated, it's irritated.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't just roll out my thoracic spine all the time and have that magically help me.
No,
while
not
I'm
while
trying
you're
to
trying
still.
to also get underweight every day.
Yeah, right. And it's something that when you're in it, it seems so simple when you're out of it and
Yep.
you look at it and you're like, oh, okay, that was probably kind of part of the issue. But when you're in it, that's all you know. That's all you're excited about, and so you just keep pushing. And so with this thing, this bastard, you can see it's pretty swollen up.
Looks good.
Starting to kind of grow its own thing. It's not as swollen
If you
today.
get into MMA now, though, you can cut dudes.
Oh yeah,
Cut 'em up.
I can swing it across. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's got that little claw, that
And
little
you have
hook.
all the speed.
But it's been
reach.
frustrating for me to try to find the answers. Like, what the fuck do I do with this thing? Even I've been to some doctors, I got follow-up appointments, and da 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 da. But it's going to take a while to figure out, what's the next move.
And that may not even have been a benching problem. I mean, there was this thing called wrestling you did for a few whiles.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, I think that sometimes is the issue, is that we engaged in some sports early
Yeah.
on. You have some early trauma, and that's the piece that
Jake
you
Ryan.
ultimately can't get around. Or, as my good friend Jesse Berg says, maybe you shouldn't bench so heavy.
Yeah, right.
That's dumb, right?
Yeah.
Just make it lighter. Your elbow will feel fine at 135.
I saw a video Chris posted
Yeah,
not too
kinda.
long ago of Mark wrestling this guy, Jake Ryan, and that guy worked on that left arm the entire match.
That's
Find him.
it's like
We have a real long talk with old Jake
CSI
Ryan.
right there. Just like get to the root of the
Saw it happen.
root of the crime.
Yeah,
He was working on an elbow joint.
the whole time. You don't know what you cost him.
It must have suffered all kinds of trauma from that particular day.
Yeah, you twist it up and jerking it. I saw
3
it.
words, karma.
Karma.
We're going to take a very quick break for sponsors right now. Mark Bill's PowerCast is sponsored by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps weightlifters get special life insurance rates. They're also the official life insurance partner of USA Weightlifting. To see if you qualify, go to healthiq.com/PowerCast today. So what makes Health IQ so unique? They use science and data to secure lower rates on life insurance for weightlifters and strength trainers. Historically, you get penalized by life insurance companies for BMI, family history, and other attributes, but you don't get rewarded when you live a health-conscious lifestyle. 56% of Health IQ customers save between 4 and 33% on their life insurance, which is crazy. That's actually a lot.
I wish you could get insurance on like your pecs and stuff. You know, like I blew out my pec like 3 times. So, can we do that?
What I'd like,
will they have stuff like that?
What I'd like to have had when I was competing was lift insurance. That's just one letter off.
What about deadlift insurance?
Deadlift insurance. I could have used some of that. You really need that because, you know, going into a deadlift in a meet, you're beat, right? You're tired. You need all of the pre-workout stimulants you can possibly get.
And it kills you.
And it kills you. Absolutely. So to see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/PowerCast or mention the promo code PowerCast when you talk to a Health IQ agent. Just a word from our sponsor, Precision Nutrition. In the past few years, I'll bet you've heard or thought at least one of the following. This is for questions for our audience. Carbs spike your blood sugar and insulin, which prevents fat loss and causes fat gain. Carbs, especially sugar and grains, cause inflammation, and carbs are not an essential part of a healthy diet like fat and protein are. Have you heard those things? Have you thought those things?
It's a real guessing game out there. You know, you don't know what's true all the time. And I think a lot of us could use some help. And, you know, even in talking to you about your diet, we're on vastly different diets.
Yeah.
You know, our diets are quite a bit different. I'm not someone that really tracks stuff and really pays attention to the exact macronutrient breakdown. Meanwhile, you're following something that's totally different.
Yeah, and I'm trying to do that, yeah.
And you've lost some weight.
Yep.
And I'm following something totally different from you, and I've lost some weight. And it's really just a matter of finding something that's going to work for you. And I think you just hear that over and over again. It sounds very cliche, but I think it's very true. If you can find something and you can start to break some bad habits, then you can really start to get back on the right track. And something like Precision Nutrition is going to help lead you down the right path.
Yep. All of this seems obviously very simple if you just make it all black and white.
Right.
And what you're pointing out is the fact that it's really not black and white. Simplistic ideas about good food and bad food ignore biological complexity and the bigger picture of the whole diet scene. That's why our sponsor, Precision Nutrition, created a brand new free course for PowerCast listeners to dig into the science behind low carb and ketogenic diets. Visit get.pn/PowerCast and get access to the free course, which covers what the research tells us about low carb and ketogenic diets, how to know if low carb, keto, or something else is right for you or your clients, the difference between paleo style diets and low carb diets, which ways of eating are the most effective for health and body change, a step-by-step guide to finding the right way of eating for you or your clients, and much more. Not only will the course give you a deeper understanding of these topics for yourself, but when friends, family, clients, and colleagues come to you for advice, rest assured that you'll have the science-based, client-tested answers that they need. People ask us questions all the time, and we know what we know. But do we always know the science behind it? And can we always answer those questions in a way that's tailored to that person's particular needs?
Principle of awareness. It's a key component to anything, to gain further knowledge and to know why you're doing something is extremely important. The other thing is, have you been stuck losing weight?
Yeah.
Yeah, so have I.
Yeah.
And I have a very conscious effort towards losing weight. I'm exercising more. You figure out ways to eat less or to work your way out of some bad habits and things like that. And the only thing that's been successful for people that I've worked with personally have been people that continue to interact with me. And those are the people, because you really do need somebody. You think you can do it on your own, but it's very difficult. You kind of need someone to lead you to it. And so I think with Precision Nutrition, that's exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get a group of people that care and a group of people that are going to lead you to the right thing.
Trust me when I say this is some of PN's best work over the last decade. They've helped nearly 100,000 clients get their own eating on track and nearly 50,000 professionals stay on the cutting edge of the industry. Consultants to companies like Apple, Equinox, UFC, and Titleist athletes like the newest U.S. Open champion Sloane Stephens. They're doing amazing work, and you need to check it out. So if you want to understand the science behind the low-carb diet trend and the best way of eating for you or a client, grab the free course at get.pn/PowerCast. That's get.pn/PowerCast. Check it out, guys.
Check it out.
And we're back.
That was fast.
Yeah.
Quick. That was a fast break.
I'm trying to remember to do that.
So, I mean, at least I was lucky with my knee, right, that there wasn't any mystery of what was wrong with it, and the doc that I was working with knew what we needed to do to fix it.
And the rehab around like an ACL and the rehab around some of these soft tissue surgeries is very simple. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten much better at, saying, hey, look, here's a way you can eat. Here's how we can keep you intact. Right. And there's a lot of other issues that instead of just leave it alone, hope it comes back. The idea is that on day one, we're trying to get you set up to be able to come back. You've not lost a lot of mass in that leg.
No, the legs held pretty good. And I think a lot of that's due to, I mean, before surgery went and bought a
You do
assault
have nice
bike.
legs.
Thank you. Thank you a lot. That means
Always
a lot to me.
admired them.
It's the coconut oil.
It is. I'll brace them up for you. You got a pool. You'll be seeing a lot of that.
Hey, what's that on the surface of the pool, Daddy?
It's a sheen.
That's
Matt Vincent.
It's water and oil. They don't mix.
Just Matt's bacon body and so I
Gas
bought
station bacon.
Bought an assault bike and then using the Power Dot and doing everything I can along those lines, right, to try to stack the cards in my favor. I mean, nothing is this magic bullet
Like I do the
that
time.
you want it to be.
But it's a curve, right? Mm-hmm. And you can choose on what side you're going to be on the curve. People say things like, "I'm a fast healer." I'm like, right,
Sure you are. There,
you're different than every other.
Which way does yours curve?
It's to the right.
To the right. We're pointing at each other.
Left, yeah.
Be around corners.
Yeah.
We're on this side because we both point.
It's a good move.
left,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Yep.
Boy, this podcast really went south.
And by south, you mean deep
Below the belt.
I mean, deep
in my
south.
bathing suit
Mason
area.
Dixon's what you're talking about, right? That's right.
Mason Dixon line. That is Interstate 10. I don't know if anyone else knows that.
You know, the question is
People that claim they live in the South or in Virginia, it snows there. You're not in the South.
There's no snow there.
Yeah, it doesn't snow in the South.
I got into my Watt Escalade.
Yeah. This has escalated out of control.
Would you guys, knowing what you know now, the real CSI here is we have a whole generation of lifters and athletes. Can we make decisions about cause and effect? So, hey, trauma through sport, that happens, right?
Right.
You're going to fall, you're going to crash, that happens.
Risk versus reward, man.
Are there things you think you would have done differently going back? Because you do a pretty good job of eating like a human being. You do a pretty good job of of taking care of yourself and moving well. I mean, I think that's why you got as long as you could. So maybe there's nothing you could do. But what we want to do is say, hey, how can I keep a whole generation of people from making the same mistake?
Yeah, if I could go back and talk to 20-year-old me whose body works well and say, like, hey, man, here's a couple things that we could change up and you'd be a lot smarter about it. But then, if I think back at that, too, and, like, I couldn't afford to eat the way that I do now when I was 20.
That's true.
And so, I mean, I was also
vegetables are
in
expensive.
college. Vegetables. Who's eating vegetables? Put those in the trash with the other carbohydrates.
I think, I would love to go back and give myself a great speech,
Right.
and say, hey, motherfucker, when you get underneath the squat rack, you're not going to be able to lock your arms in, so you're always going to squat 100 pounds less than you should. Yeah. But I don't think I would have listened to that message. I think you have to come to your own conclusions. I was talking about something the other day in a video where I said, if someone came to me years ago and said, hey, why don't you tore your pec a couple times? Why don't you think of a device that allows you to train, through and around your injuries? Maybe it's like some sort of elastic thing that stretches around your arms, and you can use it, and other people can use it to still do what they love to do.
Might rhyme with Bing Snot.
I would, yeah. Even if they said Bing Snot, even if they went that far.
I can't think of the name of it. That's where I'm missing.
Yeah. Damn it. I probably wouldn't have thought of it. I probably wouldn't have come up with the idea. I wouldn't have been able to solve it. So I think the truth is that you have to solve your own problems, and when you solve your own problems and you come to your own resolution about what the issue is, I think that it just has you in a much stronger position. Much like him losing his job.
Yep.
He's got a whole other job that he's built up. But if somebody, you know, pitched him on, hey, we're going to do this thing because you wrote this thing about hate and da-da-da-da-da, we're going to do this together, he'd have been like, what?
Right,
Like,
no,
I don't get
that's
it.
absolutely true.
Like, oh, it's going to work this way.
You got to do the time. There's certainly, you can't just go. But I think what you can do is now, because the real question, and without just jumping the shark and having some deep intellectual conversation,
We're not trying to do that here.
we
Heaven
have
forbid.
to
I don't think he
reform
listens to the
how
show.
we train and manage youth athletes, because what we can't, we're not teaching youth sports coaches to be able to identify good positions and good practices. Kids are eating like crap. I mean, like, look, you just swam, 50 meters. You do not need a 300-calorie donut to replenish from that 300 meters. So at some point,
but part of that goes back to education too, though, right?
But you're not going to. But I think the key is that you couldn't tell yourself, but you could be in a community that did it as a matter of like it was normal, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't know what your childhood coaches were, but mine were guys who were bad high school athletes.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, these weren't exactly guys looking to educate themselves on the sports. They were like, wow, these guys are kind of weak. Let's make them do up downs for the next 60 minutes. Thanks, bud.
Water makes you weak, Matt.
Yeah, of course it does.
Those who
Suck it
Vincent.
out of your shirt.
Mr. Vincent.
You suck the sweat out of your shirt. Perfect.
But we have to reform. I mean, podcasts like this, Power Mag, the work Chris Duffin does. I think we are seeing a cultural shift. But you're right. You couldn't ever go back and say this to yourself. You could only either be in a system
Might
or
not
not.
listen to it.
It's a cliche, but it's about the journey. It's what you learn
course
along
it
the
is,
way,
right?
and it's not. If somebody hands you the information, it's not the same thing
it's not the same
as
as
having
getting
come
yourself.
upon it.
Or being in a system where that was just normal.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
otherwise, this sport is just circus. And let's just accept all the injuries and all the bullshit as a normal expression of the circus. And let's just celebrate it. Like, hey, it's great. I'm sorry you destroyed your meniscus, but that's what happens when you squat. Or let's say that we can learn some lessons and then ultimately try to go back. Because I think we're starting to see, all of the athletes and coaches who listen to this are doing these practices, the videos you put out talking about rehab. And we turned that conversation we had about pre-surgery, post-surgery into an infographic. That'll help a lot of people prepare for surgery better.
Yeah, it's been really good to get a lot of feedback from other people. Amazing how many people that follow my stuff also recently had knee surgery. Right, and them having...
I just bought a truck. Look at all these trucks on the road.
Right, that's exactly right. And so these people have reached out, and they're like, this has been great to see someone following a plan. And, one of the things I try to express in is like, look, these aren't the most interesting videos, but this is my day-to-day life. And what gets the job done is
Naked in the
consistency.
pool is always interesting.
I'm going to let you in on a secret. We posted your channel on the knee surgery porn websites, and so that's
what I've been going for. I'm getting into that amputee game. That pre-amputee game. I'm looking to get
CoconutSwan.com.
Yeah. CoconutSwan.com.
Yeah,
I think prevention isn't sexy. The prevention of an injury is not sexy, but it's something that we should try to promote and try to sell people on, because it can be really important, because you end up in a position where you get taken out of your sport the way he did, the way that I am right now, and it sucks. Like you want to. It gets to a point where you're like, I just wish I could even participate a little bit more in it.
Yeah.
At this point, every time I bench press, my elbow will just swell up and get really mad. And I can suck it up and I can go train, and I could probably still bench 500 pounds if I felt like it. But at this point, it's not worth it, because the elbow
Right, but 500 is not your goal.
Yeah, it's not my
And
goal.
so we've
it's
done
not
that
my
enough
goal.
that...
Well, and it's not fun either when you're in a ton of pain. When there's a pain level of like an 8 or a 9 when you're trying to do it, you're like, this is just not smart anymore.
But then, in part of that pain level, right, you start waiting for, when does this break?
Yeah.
What's the next thing that now is a real
when
problem?
does this shatter and shoot through the sheetrock of the gym?
Yeah, that's...
Look out!
Yeah, it's no good.
explosive elbows.
Well, where I've been living all my free time reading is in this systems theory called complexity theory.
He has tons of free time, by the way.
I know he does. He won't respond to text that quick, but he's on his phone.
Are you? Give me my phone. Give me my phone. That's a lie. That's a bald-faced lie. Matt Vincent.
No. Well, you're doing 5 podcasts a day. And...
Whatever. I text you back right away.
I know.
I'm afraid. But the issue is it's really difficult to say cause and effect. And what we say now is, hey, it's impossible. Even in good strength coaches sometimes get in trouble. They're saying, look at the injury reduction we've had. And that's actually a dangerous statement.
Right.
Because probably who's the greatest the reducer of injuries for a college team, for example, is probably the groundskeeper. You know, like
Yeah, right.
This grass, no one twists their ankle.
Yeah,
like,
we're not playing on this AstroTurf that's just a thin carpet over concrete
High
anymore.
five.
Yeah.
So, you know, but
Carolina Panthers strength coach, he said he doesn't even talk about that anymore.
That's right.
He's like, I don't even bother.
Is that Ken?
right.
Injury prevention can't prevent it. Sorry.
So we can't. We
part of the
can't,
game, man.
We can't prevent some of those things, but we can't control a whole lot of other things, because I don't think we understand necessarily the human being, as you know, is a complex feedback mechanism. So, for example, if you mess around the internet and you have TV in your room, you don't sleep very well, your desire to train is a little off in the morning, and you may be a little insulin sensitive. You just didn't sleep enough, right? That sort of feedbacks into all of these other things. And sometimes you can't make a decision. Well, I had a coffee at 5 because I was feeling tired because I didn't sleep last night, and then my sleep was sort of disrupted. Now I tried to have a beer and a shot of whiskey to sleep.
It's hard to recognize, too, that like these little tiny things, they might add up to something bigger at another time. You know,
and that's this complexity theory, right?
Right.
So how can we always strive to simplify? Because the last thing, and Duff and I both talk about this, is that like we don't want you to spend an hour rolling around and mess with your system. Like, train, work on something for 10 minutes, go do something else.
Yep.
Go move forward.
And on that same point, you should probably get in and out of everything quickly. You know, when you're rolling and when you're squatting and when you probably shouldn't be squatting for 2 hours.
What happened to that your testosterone spikes 55-minute thing? Like, it takes 55 minutes to get the squat suit on. Right?
Yeah.
That's what
The
happened.
good old days.
Well, the training sessions can take a really long time, but the longer that you're doing the barbell movement itself, like barbell movements are great because they're barbell movements and you can use the most amount of weight, but barbell movements fucking suck because you can use the most amount of weight. And so you have to get yourself to assistance exercises. I don't think assistance exercises actually do a whole lot. I think the beauty of them is that you use a lot less weight. I think that's the only like magic that they provide because they allow you to do
Blood
volume.
flow.
Yeah.
Like,
I think they help
in
a ton
health,
recovery,
like
all
other
those
stuff.
stuff.
I think you're absolutely right.
more work, but it's getting in and out of those things quickly I think is really important. So if you're going to warm up, you got about 10-15 minutes on that, 10-15 minutes on the next thing. Like, there shouldn't be an overvalued priority on really anything. I think you got to keep bouncing around if you want to be able to move well for a long period of
Yeah,
time.
break a sweat. If you've got something that's nagging, dig into it, get it moving, and then get on to the lift and start moving that way specifically and get into it.
I think that's something that if I could go back and change something, it would probably be that one element. Is like just fucking work out faster, get through your shit a little quicker. It's kind of hard sometimes in here because we have a larger group sometimes, all training on the same piece or whatever. But
And it was impossible back in the geared era, though.
yeah,
No, it's
and
just
still
forever.
sometimes getting through like 8 sets of something or so, it can take a lot of time.
That's been a big advantage for me, training at home by myself is
Training the gyros.
yeah, after at
You
about
could
an
make
hour
bacon
to
in
an
there.
hour 30, like my attention span's done. I'm no longer interested in doing what I'm doing. I need to get back on something else. To spend 2 hours alone in there lifting,
Yeah.
That's because it's 300 degrees.
That also doesn't-
south of the Mason-Dixon line, son.
It's
100%
warm in there
humidity.
right now.
I think let's shift gears a little bit here. I think both you guys and even myself, I guess I'll throw myself in there. I think all of us are kind of at a pivot point in our career. For me, it's the biggest lifts I've ever done are probably behind me, more than likely. I'll keep trying, I'll keep pushing, and we'll see what the fuck happens.
Yeah, I'd say that's very likely
for
the
you
same
with
for me.
your Highland Games career. Who knows? Hopefully you
Sure,
can come
and
back and hopefully you can do
That's-
well with that.
And, taking the year off, that was something that it felt good to make peace with, was be able to mentally say that, like, if this is it, that's okay. Because I did it for 10 years. I got to travel the world.
You did a lot of work to get to be able to say that.
Of course.
I work with a lot of Olympians and high-level athletes who have nothing else.
Right, but that's
they've
not the
they've
only
not created
thing.
an ecosystem. They don't have hobbies. Right. They don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah.
They don't know how to relate or define themselves. And then when injury comes, or the engine's not as hot, who are you going to be? So, I think you have one or two things going on besides benching 900 that, like your family, that occupies your time.
Yeah.
Like,
Look, we're
making
none
cute
of us are
t-shirts.
up here and doing the things that we do in our lives because we don't obsess on something, right? And focus.
obsessive.
Right, just a hair over the line on things. And so, that's something that as soon as I was hurt, I can say, okay, cool, I'll lose weight. And now that's become my focus. This is something I've never been good at, and I'm tired of this thing of telling myself that, like, well, maybe I'm different. And this just isn't working, apparently. I'm like, fuck that. Do the work.
that
and do it
diet thing
consistent.
doesn't work on my
Yeah.
body.
caloric deficit doesn't work over here. I just keep looking fat. It's like, I dieted for almost 48 hours. Time for a cheat meal. And
yeah, haven't seen a change at all.
right, it's weird.
Kind of on that same note, have you gotten stuck a bunch of times?
Of course. Yeah. I hit weird plateaus. It's like I went from 280 to 270 really fast, and then didn't see a whole lot of change for about a month, and then all of a sudden I was in the 250s. Like it just popped and disappeared, and then did the exact same thing from like 258 to 245.
Are you tracking every single day? Are you thinking about it every single once a week?
If I'm home, I'm eating the same thing. I got no problem eating the same meal 3 times a day. And once
What
I
are
know
some
what
of your
that
go-tos?
is, they're right now. So I'm doing intermittent fasting as well. So I'm really not eating until like 11 or 12 o'clock.
But you're not training really hard either.
No, I'm not training really hard.
So you can do that.
Yeah, I'm in the morning. I get up. I do a little bit of cardio, basically to break a sweat, right? To do 10 minutes on the assault bike, or 20 minutes best, and then I spend some time doing mobility and then doing knee rehab for usually the first round of knee rehab, which all of that knee rehab maybe takes 30 minutes.
Well, I want to point out to people, this is really important. You know, I don't give a fuck about what study comes out about any of this stuff. There's nothing magical about anything. There's nothing magical about intermittent fasting.
There's no secrets.
There's no, like, intermittent fasting is not going to make you burn more calories.
No, it's just less
using,
calories I'm putting in.
It's just less calories. Ketosis doesn't do anything special either. A ketone is not anything special. A ketone can be viewed as a 4th macro. You got protein, carbs, fat, and a fucking ketone, and it's got yields 7 calories per unit, as opposed to 9 for fat and 4 for the other 2. But I think it's really important for people to understand that, because they'd be like, oh, I want to do what Matt did or what Mark did or whatever. That's cool if you want to do it. Understand why we're doing it. We're both fucked up, and we can't do what we love.
Right.
We can't put as much time, energy, effort into the thing that we love right now, because we got other shit going on as well. And we're banged up and can't even do what we love to do at the same level. So therefore, we're like, hey, we're fat. Let's not be fat.
less gross.
Let's be less disgusting. Let's not be so fat anymore and lose some weight. And so that's kind of what we decided to do. But I want to really make sure that you guys understand that you can do the same thing that we did with any diet.
Right.
Pick one that you like.
I find that kind of my rule of thumb, right, for suggesting someone doing a ketogenic diet is kind of this, where I say, like, well, how old were you when you how much did you weigh when you were 18? Like, what were you at then? If you were a big guy who's always very easily put on strength and size, I feel like this diet works pretty good, because I think you're more of...
I weighed 140 pounds. I'm not going back there. I'm sorry.
Right.
Jim is dead. Long live Jim.
And then the other part of losing weight is find a diet that you can stick to, that you don't hate the foods that you're allowed to eat.
And let me cut in, because this is an opportunity for people, again, to give some control and let go of, like, what camp I'm in terms of what my macros look like. You know, Juliet just finished a book by one of a physician we really like. Her name is Kate Shanahan, and the book's called Deep Nutrition. It's one of the first books that looks at the epigenetics and genetics implications of the way we're eating. And her recommendations are very simple. You know, for people who aren't very active or on non-trained days, you should probably be around 100 grams of carbohydrate a day, right? Okay, that smells right. I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
But the basics are, most people used to eat 60 kinds of vegetables.
60?
60. A really good person.
Radius.
A really good person can eat 20 to 30. Most people are eating 4 kinds of vegetables.
I stick with 1. Bacon.
Bacon. One of the things, right, well, what did the pig eat? He ate 60 things.
That's exactly right. Most of it was poop.
So, you know, it's simple ideas about, hey, look, I think sometimes people are forgetting that you can really make your first meal, however you're eating, more nutrient dense. You know, that people are eating, they're eating like 3 kinds of proteins, 0 kinds of vegetables, and they're just dumping a bunch of processed MCT oils and they're calling it good. That's a lie. That is not how you're designed, and not the way to sort of, you know, express how your body is supposed to work. You know, cooking meat on the bone.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
That's how you're supposed to cook meat. Not have some perfectly processed chicken. You're supposed to eat the skin.
I mean, with that said, you're also not supposed
to
be able to cruise over to the store and buy 100 pounds of chicken. I mean, if we're gonna really get into that.
Right. But I think that's the point, though. You know, you should be. Do you eat any fermented foods? You know, do you have a probiotic in your diet? Yes or no? 1 or 0 every day. But there are basics that we're talking about how many carbs I'm having, macros. I think we need to be talking about micros.
Yeah,
you know, you're eating like a poor person.
Yeah, but how much?
And I mean,
do you
like
think that
a
those
starving
matter?
person.
How much do you think that those matter? Right.
Massively.
If you're not doing the other side.
Massively.
Right.
I think they matter massively. But in that complexity theory,
Well, I think that where they start to matter, so just to back up a little bit, like anytime somebody's in shape, their markers for health are going to be better.
That's true.
Anytime
you
someone's
can buffer,
out of shape,
you can buffer more.
Yep.
yeah, so it's like if you don't get your zinc requirement and you're 185 and you're 6 feet tall and you're in good shape, it will maybe matter a little bit less, I guess is my main point. And if you're heavy, you kind of have more shit to worry about, and you have more of those kind of issues where
There's bigger fish to fry.
yeah, there's
But
getting in shape is number one, and then once you start to do that, I think you start to look at what you're talking about, because then you can have more longevity, you can have better sleep, better health, better life quality.
Well, as we were talking about, could I tell myself do this differently?
Right.
No, but I could have been in around changing behaviors. And ultimately, a lot of the conversations we're having that matter most are how do we integrate programming or better practices and change people's habits. John Berardi's a good friend of mine. Big fan of his nutrition stuff. And if you were a really heavy, overweight person trying to get your diet back together, he'd say, take a multivitamin, drink a glass of water. Do that every day for a week. Let me know how that goes.
Right.
Like, boy, I can be successful on that. And then you'd be like, hey, what I want you to do next is you're going to add 1 serving of vegetables a day. Right? And we need to see much more sustainable, because what we're happening is
I agree with
people
that.
are flip-flopping. And something you say all the time, is your program working? Are you making progress?
And what are you changing?
Don't change it. Right? I mean, yesterday, someone we put out this little infographic about kind of thinking about your day as a 24-hour cycle. And someone was just, was saying, this is what I'm doing since we work. And we're like, get a blood test. Is it confirming that that's true?
Working, right.
And are you making progress? And do you look the way you want to look? Right. Don't change it. Right? Then don't mess with it. It's okay. And then when something comes along, maybe you can optimize a little bit.
I mean, there's always little things to work in, but as long as like the main ethos of your program or your diet is working, like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Rolling back a little bit, this is my favorite thing that I've seen this week is this chart.
great.
Yeah,
Isn't that great?
Yeah, just all the different kinds of diets that are currently
how it works.
popular and
Caloric
how it works.
deficit.
Yeah, caloric deficit. Yeah,
But what those don't talk about, again, is food quality.
Right.
You said,
Yeah.
hey, I was too broke. You're not too broke to eat more kinds of frozen vegetables. I guarantee you're not that broke.
I definitely have mixed feelings about qualities of food, because when I think about, and these are just things that are they're burned into your head forever, but like when you think about when you're sick, when you throw up, especially when you're a kid, like the first thing you reach for is processed food.
Yeah, right.
Crackers and shit like that, stuff that's really easy to digest. When I think about digestion, and I think about certain foods that sometimes sit in my stomach for a long time, a lot of times they're not processed foods. Meanwhile, if I was to jam down a cupcake, I don't think I would feel it as much. And I know that it's not necessarily a quote unquote healthy choice.
No, salmon or cupcake are equivalent things.
But I'm a little
Salmon cupcake.
Well, I
think you just started a new business right there.
Calorically,
Fish
they could
cupcakes.
they could be viewed as the same.
Right, but I think that's the issue, is that we're still not playing this long game.
Right.
I'm playing my bench
Yes.
PR tomorrow.
I agree
and
with
we're
that.
not saying I want to continue to make progress until I cannot.
Right.
And that means that it's not sexy.
Nope.
I have to take care of my tissues. I need to do the assistance work. I can't just smash some big heavy dads and then leave, jump in the car. That's a recipe that doesn't work. Why? We did that already, right?
Right.
And it turns out you need to move around more. I mean, even all these old maxims that all these old coaches knew, like the bench press, it ties the arms to the body. Of course. And you're like, what does that mean, coach? It ties the arms to the body, son.
I got to build those muscles to support my knee.
That's right. The muscles
ones?
around your leg, or the Russian said, stiff in the gym, leave the gym stiff, be stiff, right? And I think there are truths in the way we've been coaching and thinking. We just don't sometimes see what the practice looks like, right? And you've got to play this long game. And it's difficult to get people excited about the long game because it's not sexy.
Right.
I want to be on my next macro. I want food to come in the mail that I don't have to cook. I want to do,
So what does that mean to you then, playing the long game? Because if you have 5 or 6 meals in a day, or however many meals, let's say you have 4 meals in a day, can every other day kind of include a dessert or include something different that's out of
for sure.
the realm?
You notice that I haven't said anything about dessert.
Right.
I think it's been
Right.
I think it's been pretty clear. Lustig has made it clear we are way too much addicted to sugar. Sugar is a big problem, and if you're getting all your macros from sugar, eating gummy bears in between sets, then that's a lie. Like, quit it. One of our elite exercise physiologist friends, tour friends level guy, he's like, look, you cannot cheat your physiology. You can shortcut it for a while, but you can't cheat it. So, Is a cookie going to disrupt the system? No, but if that's part of the process, we need to look at it. Alcohol.
It shouldn't disrupt the process because you have everything else correct.
That's right. And I think we lie to ourselves a little bit about
100%
what we're doing,
the
amount of sugar we're giving our kids. So hey, but instead of saying we're doing it wrong, let's go ahead and put something in. What can we control?
Well, and why are you allowing your kids to have ice cream? Because it's fun, right? Like that's the way you.
But have your kids eaten any vegetables today?
Right.
Did your kids eat mac and cheese and chicken nuggets
Are you saying
while you had a
balance?
kale salad?
Mac and cheese. Why is that always a thing? Every time, mac and cheese with kids.
They love it.
Well, it's fucking awesome. I understand, but
Well, in the
it's always
Slanger
mac and-
Mansion, it's lobster mac and cheese.
Yeah. Why is it always mac and cheese?
But
Even when it's terrible, it's great,
but
though.
let's do first things first. Let's make it like: do you sleep 7.5 or 8 hours? Yes or no? 1 or 0? No. That's the greatest, cheapest performance enhancer on the planet. And if you're not doing that, you need to ask yourself why. I'm not a big fan of fitness trackers, except there are 2 reasons I think you should have one initially. Find out how much time you're actually spending in bed, because you're lying. And we even saw our elite Olympians. We worked with about 30 Olympians last year, and a big chunk of them went through a process where we had them self-evaluate sleep, and they said, we all get enough sleep. We know sleep's important. We're Olympians. And then they actually tracked it, and not a single Olympian hit what they were reporting in terms of sleep.
Oh, of course not. Yeah. I just got a new CPAP after like 10 years, and this one tracks how long it's on every day. It freaking emails me. It has a cellular antenna
it gives you all
in
the
it.
info.
Yeah, it gives me all the, and so.
I've never been able to get used to one of those damn machines.
Well, this one is so weird because I can even tell. I can hardly even tell it's on. Really, it's just there's almost nothing
Your sleep
to it.
quality has changed radically.
Like it did when I initially got one 10 years ago. This hasn't been that much different. But the thing that is happening is that every day I see how much I theoretically slept, and it makes me work toward getting a better number.
Playing video games.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that
Men will die for points.
That's exactly right.
Thanks, Greg. And one of the things I think that you just brought up is, hey, you need to do some assistance work. Let's use that for non-exercise activity. Let's have my like big lifts and the hard things I'm doing, but all the other things can just go towards that non-exercise activity. So sometimes we're like, hey, look, in our elite military units and groups, we'll have them track with Ready Band how much movement they're doing. And a lot of those guys, when they hit under 10,000, the problem is, even though they're training, they're not moving enough during the day, so they don't sleep very well. They haven't accumulated enough fatigue day.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe you need to go for a walk after your squat sets. Maybe you just need to go mess around the gym for an hour, just moving around, spinning on the bike. You just not moving enough. Those are some of those basics we're talking about.
Hey, another side of that, too,
Practicable.
the people that I know that will complain about sleep to me, these are the people that, most of the time their shit's not together in life and everywhere else is, and they're like, oh, I don't get out of bed until like 11. I'm like, why don't you start setting your alarm at 5, get out of bed, go do something.
It's a great
Big
way.
surprise, you're tired come 9 p.m.
It's a great way to get you to sleep better. Yeah. And maybe, cut back on some caffeine or some shit.
And man, and once you start knowing,
this is important. We say no caffeine after 4. Really try to limit your caffeine at 4 p.m.
Pretty reasonable, even for somebody who's pretty caffeine tolerant.
Because
it
you
still
need
affects
to
me. I can tell.
sleep denser. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like just
Well,
junk sleep.
you also might not even realize, but like your coffee in the morning, even if it's at 8 a.m., can mess up your rhythm for the whole day. Like we're not really probably supposed to have a bunch of caffeine.
I just had a bunch of caffeine.
Sorry,
Hey, it's really been great talking to you.
well, way to be a real boner killer, guys.
Well, and what a bunch of fucking pussies we are too, because we got to wake up from our rest that we just had. We just slept for fucking 12 hours.
God.
Now I need a cup of coffee. I
this
can't
is-
even talk without a cup of. You hear all these
that
memes
idea,
and
right?
quotes
This-
fuck you. Why can't you do shit without a cup of coffee?
It's the grind, right?
You asked me,
What
you asked me to
pussies
deadlift
we
without
are.
coffee?
Yeah.
Just amazes me. Just so we're fucking clear here, the thing that we're all love is the amount of fake work we're doing in a gym.
Yes.
Because none of our jobs require manual labor.
Made up
Yeah.
exercise.
I don't have to defend my home from like an invading army.
Yeah.
No one's trying to take my
Thank you,
shit
Joe
or kill
Weider.
me.
And I have
Like, fucking take it down to
I have
there, warrior.
fat proteins, lean carbs. What was that?
Yeah. Lean proteins and fast carbs. Gary Frank living the dream. Sucking down chicken fingers and French fries.
He's the best.
He's the best.
In between sets. I mean, that's it's so easy.
That gym had nothing but Mountain Dew in the fridge.
I challenge you to drink 12 Diet Cokes in a day.
Yeah.
For a week.
He was the first guy to do like 2,400, 2,500,
26, 27, and 28.
Yeah,
and was miles ahead of everyone when he did it.
Yeah, he was
The problem
killing
with Gary is that
There's many
Gary's a
problems.
guy. Yeah. but like freak athletes, right?
Yeah.
People that are so far outside the bell curve, a lot of times they don't realize they are. And since it came so naturally, it doesn't compute to them to say, well, why don't you just fucking do what I did?
WPO finals.
This will work
He does like head, shoulders, knees and toes a bunch of times, and then goes out and deadlifts 900 pounds.
Right. That was warm up.
Like literally, that's his warm up.
The candle that burns half, twice as bright, burns half as long.
Well, that was
931 deadlift.
when I was
Con
training
Air.
over there. That was
Great Con Air
It was
quote.
like well, what's you guys' training methodology? Well, Gary's got us doing 52 weeks of max geared singles, full gear. Like, oh,
A couple
it
guys
works
might
super
get
good until
strong.
you're 22,
Yeah.
and then you stop being a kid.
Breathing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Because you get really strong from 14 to about 22. It really doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, like, people just would break down, right? And then it would just be like, well, I didn't finish a meet, or the squat was too high, or blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, everyone except Gary.
Right. Somebody recently, I think it was maybe Greg Knuckles, did a review of USAPL numbers over the last like 5 years or whatever, and what it looks like, all of us feel like people are getting stronger and like
They are.
maybe stronger than they've ever been. He says, and I
Years.
think this is reasonable, there are so many more people competing in powerlifting now
Yeah.
that we're attracting those freak athletes.
Of course,
and
right.
that's what's driving the top numbers because the average numbers are the same.
Well, you look at like kind of
true.
quote unquote newer sports like MMA or CrossFit. The definitions for who's good has changed very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
Some of the people that were in contention for top 10 in CrossFit at the very beginning, maybe their numbers or whatever compared to some of the guys now wouldn't be able to hang, with the exception of maybe a couple, right?
And you have training age.
But
yeah, for
and
sure.
things just move quickly. I mean, MMA I think is even a better example of that, just because
amazing.
So what you're saying is to be
It's
good at a
evolved.
sport, you should start early at an early nascent sport. Get out. Wow,
Get out,
my
get out
time.
before people really
hard.
before real athletes get over here.
That-
They're doing better than us.
Messing it up.
So that's the whole reason why I've been working this elbow injury. I've been
back
trying
to
to
the
sell
ring.
the shit out of this. No, I've been trying to sell it so I can step aside, because all these motherfuckers in powerlifting are actually really strong.
They're really strong.
So I'm trying to move out of the way, and I'm blaming it on my elbow. Oh yeah, this thing.
I met Rubbish when Yo was here, and I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I just watched that kid deadlift all day long.
my
Yeah.
God.
Amazing, right?
Mute.
Just a freak.
And they're immune. I think that's one of the issues. There are these
Deadlift
mutants
to me
around us.
is a lift more than bench or more than squat that some people just seem to have it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, like just some
No, there's no
asshole
question.
who's not good at squatting or benching will show up and pull
Yeah,
700 and be like,
we had a
"Of course
kid
he
here
does."
who deadlifted 881 at 198, the all-time world record. He's 22 years old. Kaylor Woolham.
I just woke up like that one day.
He sent me a video, and he's like, "Oh, here I am
How's this form
deadlifting
look?"
705. How's this look?" And I was like, "Looks fucking amazing.
Yeah,
Great
right,
job.
right.
You're better than me. You don't need my help."
It's okay.
Should never call me again.
3 months later, he's deadlifting 750. 3 months after that, so 6 months go by, and he deadlifts 100 pounds more. He deadlifts 800 pounds on like his 20th birthday.
You're the best coach ever, Mark.
And then
Yeah,
it's
you
not
nailed it.
long. I
12%.
didn't say one word other than give him a pat on the back. He ends up pulling 925, I think, in the gym, or 905. Or
At
something like that in the
181
gym.
pounds.
198. Yeah, he's 200 pounds. Yeah,
Crazy.
You know, Dan Dalrymple, who is the head strength coach for the Saints.
sounds like a fake name.
I know.
We have a street
Danny Dalrymple.
Dan. His first powerlifting meet ever. Never been under a bar. Back squat at 6.
That's
And
nuts.
so, and like raw.
Right.
And he like walked
He's
out.
like,
and
"Oh,
he's
you're supposed to do like this."
yeah, and it, literally people were like, he's like, is that good?
Well,
And he was like 18, right?
That's the same dumb shit as like the thrower I know, Adam Nelson, gold medalist. Talking with him a couple years ago, he's not familiar with powerlifting. He's a typical Olympian guy where the only thing he's ever given a shit about is shot put. Yeah. And so he's like, well, I was one of the smaller guys throwing. Adam's 6 foot, 260, at his best when he was competing. He was like, I just wasn't ever the stronger guy, so I had to make up for it with speed. I'm like, so what were your lifts? And he was like, well, I benched 500 the first time when I was 17. And then, later on, right before Athens, I hit 585 for 3. I'm like, oh, okay. You're like, what are you
like, "See
talking
you
about?
later."
Yeah. He's like, I squatted once in knee wraps, went for a big rep and hit like 11 at 675. I'm like,
What?
yeah, but
man,
I walked
just-
it out, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't really
And he was
tell.
like, there were knee wraps. And I'm like, if you had knee wraps on for 11 reps, they weren't on. Like,
Yeah, and they're probably some shit
of
like
course. They
Ace.
just hairbringers, just ace bandages wrapped around.
Yeah.
Sorry if Hairbringer's a sponsor for anyone.
Big Five Sporting.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
Great stuff. Anyway, talking about this kind of pivot point, you losing your job and shifting gears into the HVIII brand stuff, you shifting gears away from CrossFit, correct?
Yeah, a while ago.
So you had seminars. You were on a seminar tour. How many seminars did you do in like a 2-year span or whatever?
Oh, we did a lot. I think we put 15,000 athletes through our coaching course.
That's amazing.
Damn.
That's reaching a lot of folks.
So do you still have that course? You still offer that same course?
Well, what we've realized is as this whole industry has become more mature, which is great because we could have the next conversation. Because, I mean, back when we met, I'd show up and be like, this is your leg. And people would be like, I just PR'd on my deadlift. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay. The bar was really low then, right?
Yeah, right.
And the leg bone connected.
Threw a foam roller out there and people were like, what is this thing? And they're hitting it like apes.
Now people become a lot more sophisticated, which means we can have the next conversation. So we actually, and realizing that, I mean, my Instagram is it's so crowded with so much bullshit that looks like everyone's got the next Secret Squirrel program. Right. Everyone who's doing a good job is transparent.
Secret
Squirrel
program.
What is that about? How do
exactly.
How do I get involved?
It's the next hottest.
I want to store stuff in my
You
cheeks.
drink gluten-free vodka. You don't eat the hamburger bun. You Olympic lift. Take your shirt off. And
I'm writing all this down.
Right.
It's confusing.
Dan, write that down.
But like, along those lines,
because everyone is,
no hamburger bun.
As you know, I mean, you just texted me something the other day, and you're like, look at this motherfucker, just blatantly ripping off your shit.
Was that me?
That was. I think all three of us were talking about it.
And the idea here is, people are trying to get their little piece of the pie. And I'm like, look, if you're ripping us off from something we did in 2011, like we're talking about the next set of things.
Moving
so
target.
It's fine.
Yeah, the vehicle you just bought from Toyota isn't what they're working on at the factory.
That's right.
So
what we've realized is that we need to serve strength conditioning coaches and universities and bigger systems, and we've really worked on trying to streamline process, help people utilize their already really good programming. Like Keith Caton, our mutual friend. I was just down at the Hoosiers like 3 weeks ago, and he's figured out how to put position transfer exercises, some of these mobilizations, into the bench series, into like how to work into a little. He's figured out how to apply some of these things into his program, and that's what we're really working on: is how do we help people streamline process and get better. But at the systems level, at the university level, at the whole progress, we just launched. So we moved our course online. And we're finding that people are doing a much better job because they can study at home. It's more cost effective. They don't,
it's tough to sit through 8 hours of seminar. I don't care what the course is.
And there's so many of them.
He's a great presenter, though.
Sure, but 8 hours is brutal.
Maybe one of the best I have ever seen. So,
out of the two, definitely top two.
No. I've seen plenty. And the first time I ever saw it, I was like, oh my god, this guy knows how to work a crowd.
Oh, he's great.
Dave and I are just
driving.
Does
a good job of getting information.
But this is one of the low pieces of fruit that we can talk about as a field. We have to get better at communicating. Communicating more effectively and transmitting information, so it doesn't just drop. And the internet's helpful for that. But I mean, our friend Brett Bartholomew just put a book called Conscious Coaching. Highly recommend everyone read this. And if you're coaching people and you don't have any meta awareness about how to coach, how to teach, learning process, learning style, like you're really a shitty coach.
The book teaches you how to coach, basically.
It talks about coaching as a discipline, as a field, and really it's
awesome. Yeah, people need that.
Right. How do we communicate more effectively? So we've moved this online, and then what we've just launched, we're really stoked about, is this 102 course, which is what we're trying to do is create coaches and turn them into combat medics.
I'm just going to wait till 103 because I'm already
because you're already there. I'm already combat medic.
Just waiting for everybody to catch up. Right?
Well, I caught the sequel too.
We've got to establish range of motion benchmarks. Right? These are the things you should be able to do as a human being. In movement competencies, really, really like movement vital signs. And you need to be able to see what's going on when someone's benching, why they're benching that way, and how to improve their bench. And not with doing a bunch of fancy tests, by looking at the bench and things that look like the bench. Right? So then you can actually see what's happening with the shoulder. Right, so that we can avoid the elbow, because how many reps does it take until you get to the chewy center of the lollipop? And we're finding that a lot of the physical therapy errors, provider errors, it's all this language of rehab, which is fine if you're like a 90-year-old woman. It is not the language of athletics. It's not the language everyone speaks. Squat, bench, pull, push, press up, throw, run. If you can't speak in those languages and diagnose in those languages and see the inefficiencies, then you're leaving just massive performance on the table.
You learned some of that from your wife. I remember you did mobility.
I learned nothing from my wife.
Yeah. I know you did the mobility WOD stuff, a lot of stuff just raw from your garage, off your phone. And I remember you kind of saying, like, anytime you went doctor, your wife would, like, punch you.
She was explain like I'm 5.
Yeah, she's
that's just like, you sound like an ass.
Well, but that's why someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson is so great right now. With
less technical. STEM. Okay,
like
good.
astrophysicist.
Your wife is amazing, by the way.
True fact.
Because that guy is the king of explain like I'm 5.
Well, and I think that was really the issue, is that we have not made it in language that people understand and in the framework they understand. If I'm talking about squat and torso position, then you're like, okay, that's the language.
Mm-hmm.
If I suddenly give you a whole correlate language, you don't do it. And so again, how do we change cultures, change behaviors? We have to make sure that we're serving the coaches and the places that come out of this. I think, there are these pockets of excellence. Super trained gym. There's a lot going on here, right? But not everyone has access to a super trained gym style place or a high level university. So we've got to do a better job of supporting the places who are actually teaching foundational movements. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, when we work and I've used this analogy before, but when I'm in the NFL. Right, and I work with a lot of NFL teams, talk to their strength staff, and they'll say, what the problem is? All these kids get broken in college. And you're like, oh, well, let me go over here to college. And then you're like, you talk to the strength staff in college, and they're like, what? They
showed up busted.
They're so broken. I mean, Aaron Wellman, who is the strength and conditioning coach for the Giants, was at Notre Dame and at Michigan. When I first met him at Michigan, and he is bright. He's like, what the problem is that 90% of our recruiting class, these are all Americans. He's like, they all had knee pain doing an air squat. Just squat down during warm-up. My knee hurts. And he's like, okay, so you're 18. We haven't even started real football yet, and you're already in pain. So then you go to the high school coaches, and the high school coaches say, all my kids are hurt and they can't move.
You're right.
So we're not teaching the kids. At some point, we're either going to have to lop off a generation. People will be like, it's too late for you. Good luck, Mark, with your elbow.
The new kids will learn more.
Hey, what's going on? Or we are going to have to take these lessons and apply this systematically. So by the time kids come in here who are 18, they're pulling 500.
It's kind of interesting because like extreme movement will cause an extreme change. Like your tissues will get stiff and they'll get caught up and you'll be screwed up. And if you're not paying attention to all the things we've already talked about.
Well, let me stop it because that may or may not be true. We know that, of course, we put 1,000 pounds on your back. It does things to your body. Right. But maybe you only got stiff because you don't move and you actually sit on the couch. And you're sitting 6 to 10 hours a day.
I like to spend about 3 hours on the couch pre and post workout.
That's what it takes.
It's smart.
But what we're seeing is we're making these errors of being a human being.
Right.
And maybe that's why. Hey, maybe because I'm eating a ton of sugar.
Right.
And I eat like shit.
Well, just from like my own knowledge base of like seeing people that train, seeing people that don't. They're both in pain. And when you talk about kids that are stiff, that can't move and get in position, well, I coached at the high school level. Those kids. A lot of those kids couldn't move and get into position because they didn't do anything.
That's right.
So you have an extreme on one
movement
end.
Illiteracy.
Right. There's that. And sitting down and playing video games or whatever, their hamstrings are tight. This is tight. That's tight. They can't get in a deadlift position. Some of them couldn't even reach the bar. There's probably 5 or 6 kids on the football team. That's where I got the idea for the wagon wheels. A bunch of kids couldn't even reach. A bunch of kids couldn't.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, lift that damn thing off the ground. A bunch of kids couldn't even reach the barbell. But then on the flip side of it, if you're training for a long time and you're not paying attention to some of the things that you need to pay attention to, you're not moving enough, you're not focusing on any mobility or nutrition.
You're a stress case.
Your shit's gonna get wound up crazy tight. So you have to be paying attention to it no matter what.
I was talking to a high-level physio who had just been out with this physician named Perlmutter, who is a gut genius and spends a lot of time working on the gut biome. And people think now that literally...
That gets to be confusing.
that the health of your small intestine, we know, affects your brain, affects all these other things, these inflammatory markers.
But may more things to worry about.
Well, yeah, here's how you work about it. Eat some yogurt today. Eat something like take a pill that has rhymes with probiotic. That may be effective. We're just not seeing all of the inputs. We're only seeing, and then it must be, squatting heavy makes me stiff. Well, is that true? Let's look at all the things.
Doesn't make everybody stiff. No. There's some people that function fine, right? That do it all the time.
Anyway, just look. It's basic stuff, and more importantly, you got to be able to lift. Lifting weights is fun. Lifting more weights is more fun.
Hell yeah! It's what you were saying earlier about the kids, so. You were talking about, going to the NFL level. Okay, everyone's all banged up from college, and you went down the line. If you had a group of, kids that were, playing football, they're 15 to 17 or whatever the age group is, teenage kids playing football or basketball or whatever the sport might be, what are some of the messages that you can share with them that are quick, easy, not easy fixes, but kind of like you mentioned, hey, like, are you eating vegetables? Are you drinking water? Like, there's a couple things that you're thinking about now, talking to those younger kids.
You got to get to sleep. Like, we can control that. Like, you just got to sleep more. And you got to sleep denser. No iPhone in the bedroom, no TV in the bedroom, and it needs to be black.
Samsung?
Like,
Samsung phone.
Like Vincent's phone.
That's right.
Like your soul.
What about Instagram? They're going to miss us. Snapchat?
Yeah, I know. And look, if I had that thing, I'm like absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like, I mean, I'd be like all sexy texting my girlfriend at 2 in the morning too. I mean, it's crack.
Yeah. Instead, I was doing it on the phone line. I had him.
Mom, get off the line. So
Dad wakes up at 4.
So the idea here is, look, we just have to block behaviors so that we can start to see. Look, squatting heavy is corrective. That's what people forget.
So you're saying our natural intuition doesn't lead us to these things?
No, I just eat what I want to eat. It's just my body tells me that I just need Doritos right now. Like, no way, no way. And
what if you crunch them up real small and put them on top of mac and cheese?
My favorite. I just have to. This is anytime it mentions Doritos. Remember when Jesse was trying to go up from 219 to 315 or 305?
Yeah, the red weight classes
in like a month.
Yeah,
and but he couldn't put on weight. And I'd see him at the gym, and he'd be like, "This sucks." He's eating 3 chickens, and whoever's helping with his nutrition was finally like, "Look, I'm gonna tell you this. Don't tell anyone else this. But the secret to getting fat is Doritos." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "We don't know why it works, but your body gets really confused and just puts on the fat." And he's like, "I'm telling everyone this."
Nutrition confusion.
Well, we basically figured out that nobody even knows what a Dorito originally was. Like, we don't know what form. Like, is it a potato? Is it corn? Like, what the fuck is it?
I think that there's chalk. You can use that orange for the bar.
There's a room somewhere at a Dorito factory that just looks like the layer in Aliens with all the eggs. And someone comes in and opens, instead of face huggers, there's just different.
This podcast got
face huggers.
Yeah, face huggers.
This podcast got
don't know Aliens?
Super negative. I love
Doritos.
About
Dune all the time, but
Doritos
Aliens is out of
tacos from
realm?
Tacos Bell.
Tacos
Bell.
Look, I'll go ahead and say this. So this is a big deal
Mark
for me
Bell,
with being
Tacos
less
Bell.
gross. Is I haven't had Taco Bell since November, which is this could be the longest stretch.
Well, let's change that. That place is great.
I love Taco Bell.
John Wellborn went to West Side and was lifting there with some of those guys, and he was like, I think it was AJ, and AJ was trying to like do some big bench and stuff, and he's like, well, what'd you have for lunch? He's like, 11 things from Taco Bell. And John was kind of like,
you spend $20 at Taco Bell here. Fucking high roller.
He's like, do you know,
You're
I mean,
living
like,
a dream.
think about the small intestine. Whether you're on the gear or not. Like, the issue is the healthiest that your gut can be is going to only do you good.
Right.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Let's just be honest here. Taco Bell, there's 44 items on the menu, I think, and 5 ingredients.
That's
Genius.
true. But that's every Mexican restaurant, though. Like a real Mexican restaurant.
So
I can name all 5 of those ingredients.
I
so
spent
this is basically
a lot of my
paleo.
20s kayaking, right? And it's not a good sport. But we would be
Got the drop foot.
we would be running this class 5. Sometimes they're overnights, and we would take
Those
7
are tough rapids
7-layer
for the rest of you playing
burritos,
at home.
and we'd stuff 7-layer burritos to the end of the dry bag because they would conform to whatever you needed. And in 2 days, 2 days, still good. And like, I don't know when
They're so preservative, like they just can't
I need a
rot.
flexible, moldable 700 calories on the spot. I have a solution.
Mexican Go-Gurt.
TM.
Just nailed that.
It was amazing. But they would fit in. You could put 3 of them, 4 of them in the back. And I tell you
That already
what,
sounds so
you're
good.
scared. It's 4 o'clock. It's getting dark. You know, no one's around. You're like, 7-layer burrito.
The problem is you used 4 to last how long that day?
All of it.
Yeah, because those would be like, well,
The
I
problem
ate
is-
one, and
the
then I
problem
ate a
is-
second one, and you just
I don't
can't
know
stop.
when you get really scared and get that gurgle, and it's only 7-layer burritos in there.
The
It's
old
tough.
bubble guts.
Yeah, that's that little troll like stirring the cauldron down there, laughing with a little hat on. He's like,
Well, I'm going to go ahead and
And it
say
just means
this
you're
is
about to
another
shit really
another
bad.
side effect of keto that I've run into
Uh-oh.
that I'm disappointed in.
hey now.
Being on a
Saint's
deficit to
breath.
lose weight and ketogenic foods, you don't poop as much. You just don't poop as much when you're losing weight.
Fat or fiber.
Totally a bummer.
You got to add fiber.
Well, I do add fiber. I've been trying to get a Metamucil scholarship for years.
Scholarship.
Yeah, I still always poop A ton. I think
No
it's because
way.
the fat content's through the roof.
I try like hell, and it's just not the
Always
same. I'm on such a
fat or
deficit.
fiber.
My body's working.
I
At
do
100%
eat a lot of
efficiency.
veggie. I do eat a lot of veggie tables
It's
right
like-
now, though, so that might help.
I'm providing it with the perfect set of macronutrients. But there's just no waste. That's what I've got going on.
My disappointment is always like when you actually have some carbs. Actually,
Yeah.
like that day you can't get out of the bathroom. I can't get out of the bathroom.
You want to? I think the goal is to be like hyena poop. It just comes out like dried, packaged.
Like a rabbit, deer.
Oh man.
If you,
Sweet everything.
if you can honestly call it scat, then
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
you know.
right. Human scat.
You can track it.
But I think here's an experiment everyone can do at home. You have a dog.
Mail us your poop. Kelly Starrett's address is. He'll examine your
sample.
poop and figure
Poop
out your
bell.
next diet routine.
What actually makes me think of this is that we have this dog toy. Juliet's cousin has a subscription dog toy company.
Yeah.
And they sent us this thing called a bark bell. And every day
Bark bell?
we throw
Bark
it.
bell.
We're like,
This is your new dog
bark
thing.
bell. And we can't. And it says around the side, and literally we're in the hot tub throwing for the dog, and it's like everyone, even Caroline, my 8-year-old's like, bark bell. You're in our house. We can't shake you.
I love it.
But if you feed your dog real food like meats and organs, watch what happens to their poop. It's not that gross dog poop. It actually comes out like hyena poop, and you're like, huh, interesting. When we do what we're
switched up
supposed
Juice
to
diet?
do.
We're
What's
supposed
that
to eat.
sell
We're supposed to eat
regular
organs
food?
too, aren't we?
No, he's a trash dog. That's a $20 dog. No way, man. I buy
getting
the
filleted?
best. It doesn't say any corn, no fillers, no wheat, but man, that guy's
Go into your local
no
butcher
way.
and say, "Give me all the lips and assholes. These are going to the
Yeah,
pub."
yeah, for sure. You should definitely do that.
Yeah, that'd be key. Just
That's
grind them up
gross.
like hot dogs. Hot dogs are delicious.
If you had a pyramid of success, you got sleep is kind of a thing that you've been harping on. You got hydration, obviously, people know about that. But what are some things people should be doing towards hydration? And what are I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is a good. Remember when we went out and we were at the WWE, you and I,
Yeah.
right? And we were talking about easy ways to sort of work up if you never, this is the setup. Imagine a room full of cartoon characters. Like
We're sitting between Kane and Triple H. What's happening?
that's what I mean, right?
Basically, yeah,
Like,
cartoon characters.
I'm like, there's a dwarf there, there's a giant there, there's like the Bella twins. You're literally like, this is a room full of cartoon characters.
It's like being at Comic-Con, but for real.
Yeah.
for actual people. Like
Their
that guy's
jobs.
wearing leathers, and
Chaps.
yeah, for sure. We were talking about how people drink too much water.
Right?
And that girl, and everyone started chuckling because on the TV show, that girl had peed herself because she's trying to drink a gallon of water a day. So the problem is that you're not necessarily that you're not drinking enough water, is that you're not absorbing the water you're drinking.
Yeah,
so
you gotta have some salt.
you just add a pinch of sea salt. Look, if you're drinking more than 2 liters of
Himalayan.
water a day, unless you're just sweating, that's enough. And that's not very much. And that, you've got to count total fluids. But if you're, the first thing that I think would change your life, in the first thing in the morning, before you've had your coffee, 12 to 16 ounces of water, put a pinch of sea salt in that and chug it. And anytime you're drinking just straight water, pinch of salt in it. What will end up happening is you won't be bolusing your kidneys and peeing out. You'll actually be absorbing the water you're drinking.
Well, and you could be dehydrating yourself, too, by drinking too much water. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's why
pulling
they
out.
should get
And
ready
more
for-
importantly, blowing out your electrolytes. Have you ever, we used to do this sometimes in really, really hot environments. People are just sucking, and you just give them like one of those noon tabs, and they
Right.
put it under their
Yeah,
tongue,
noon
and
tablet.
they get a little salt in their system, and they're like, "Whoa, I'm back!"
Everything's
like
back,
a,
it's
like
great.
a wilted plant
Yeah.
coming back to life. And honestly, and
Nice big
as people have
difference.
really cleaned up their diets, because there are people who are really getting ninja about the way they're eating. They've actually pulled out all the good quality salts, and that salt
Like the stuff
should
that comes
not
in
be
fat.
That's right. That salt should not be sodium chloride, not table salt. It should be the most expensive boutique salt you can get. I mean, like
Now,
Himalayan
table,
sea salt.
but table
Sea
salt has more iodine in it. Is that correct?
Well, do you need iodized salt? It's because they had to put it back because people weren't eating onions. People weren't eating food with iodine, and so they were seeing goiters. So they were like,
Goiters,
and they were eating non-salt salt.
Right.
So there's a lot of natural occurring iodine in things called food.
Right.
And so if you're
Shrimp.
using real shrimp, if
So
you're
you're
using
saying
real,
you might not need extra of it.
you don't need. And if you're
Especially
eating
if you got the gout.
crappy salt to supplement your iodine, you have bigger problems. Does that make sense?
Our boy Rhino would disagree. He said table salt. You're saying sea salt. I think you guys should have a wrestling match over it. Cable,
I think
cage match.
he is
have
more.
to calm me down with
I
a
think
chair.
he's more sensitive than you think. What he's saying is salt flakes, bespoke salt flakes made from a guy in Brooklyn with a leather apron and a hipster mustache.
He's just got a big block.
Pink
and
sea salt. Pink
that flake's
Himalayan
too big.
sea salt.
You can get
It
that
has to
anywhere.
be.
You can get that at Costco, right?
can.
So I mean, like if you get it at Costco,
What about
it's,
just a
this
big salt
conversation's
lick?
off the table.
Like a big
That'd
salt
be
lick,
good.
a big brick?
We have literally invented a need for adding people's salt back in their diet,
Right.
because they're eating no salt.
Yeah.
Right? Look how clean I'm eating. Like, there's this thing called salt. You just sweated your brains out, and you haven't even replaced those electrolytes. So let's think about that. And if you added that, that would change.
So
your
3
life.
things to improve your life. We got sleep,
Salt.
salt,
Sleep
and
more.
sex.
Sex.
I don't know. I'm just trying to
Bumps
think of the
testosterone.
No,
It
what
has
would be
to,
would be
right?
like a third thing that would help
I say,
a lot. That's simple.
honestly, I say
Simple to follow.
non-exercise activity. You just need to move a little bit more than that. That could be a walk in the evening. You need, get on the bike, spin a little bit. Everyone who's strong is afraid of being fit. And I think you can do some intervals, and it will not affect your strength training.
I agree with that.
It'll
completely.
improve it.
Yeah, isn't that
Yeah.
weird? In fact, some really excellent research showing that interval training actually upregulates a lot of interesting genetic expression, and that you have these genes that are sort of dormant, and lifting weights doesn't do it, and aerobic work, long steady state, doesn't work, but breathing hard, interval training does. It upregulates 193 genes. So things start to turn on and start to see efficiency in the system gain.
I mean,
Right, so
that's
move around
something
time.
that I feel a hell of a lot better with. I know that if my training's on point and like I have, during a given day, what I'd like to hit in my training, whether or not I'm going to fit that all in 1 hour or I'm going to do 3 pieces, right? If I want to do rehab and mobility work for 10 to 30 minutes, and then that's also involving a warm up, and then I'm going to have a conditioning piece that's going to be hard.
Right.
And for me as an athlete, I don't need to spend 40 minutes grinding away at something.
No.
Give me 10 minutes,
Plenty.
and I'm gassed.
Right.
And
then
make it
then
look
a strength train.
and make it look athletic. I'm going to push the sled.
Yeah.
And just do repeats until I'm
A circuit of some sort or whatever.
Exactly.
Make it make it your assistance work.
Yeah.
Right.
But I
Do
think
kettlebell snatches or something like that. Something that I'm going to use the entire body.
quick.
And, right.
It's not going to make you weak. And you can keep. I have a tire at home full of concrete that I drag up and down the. A little small Fiat tire, mind you, right? It's a little tiny baby tire, and
He got it from Italy, handmade.
leather apron,
Yeah.
Milan, and but I think that makes a
Italian
difference,
rubber.
moving more, and then I also think do your soft tissue work before you go to bed. So 10 minutes before you go to, so we say is nothing good happens in the 10 minutes before you go to the bedroom. Do you follow what I'm saying? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. The idea here is that that's the time to do your soft tissue work because it doesn't interfere with your training time. Your training time is sacred. If we're in the gym, let's actually be in the gym and train. But all that soft tissue work, down regulation, will also help you sleep better. That's a good time to put it in. You won't skip it. Just leave out the roller in front of the TV while you're
Right.
watching Netflix or chilling or whatever you're doing, and go ahead and hit that in the 10 to 15 minutes before you go to bed, and then you'll sleep better. And now we have this
Netflix and chill and foam roll.
Yeah. Exactly.
Comma.
we use inflatable swan and coconut oil.
That's it. And you just slide across the floor.
You guys have a wild marriage.
You have no idea.
Hey, no.
I helped him out. I boost that.
God damn, Julie, I didn't know that was going on over there.
No,
Swan and
I
coconut
agree
oil?
with that completely. Like that down regulation at night. I think something.
And that's really a conversation about stress. People are stress cases, and this is one of the ways that we're helping them trying to address stress.
One of the things I got a lot out of, talking with you for post-surgery and things to work on was like breathing work, breath work in general, with learning how to deregulate.
Having
at night.
bad breath?
Yeah, just that keto breath, brutal. But learning how to like deregulate at night because one of the issues, I just not a sleeper. I've never been
Meditating
one.
or something like that? Or just
Yeah,
No,
in general,
a form of, it's
right?
a mechanical meditation.
It forces you to meditate because you're counting breath in kind of an unnatural way of breathing, and so you just can't get into a rhythm unless you're counting it.
Right.
And I'll notice at some point into it that I've just completely spaced and gone somewhere else, and it's great. And by
Well, it's
that point,
amazing.
time to go to bed.
Your body has a way to like auto-regulate some stuff,
Yep.
and then sometimes we're overwhelmed with certain things. But like a sigh is like a way to kind of control. You're thinking about all these different things. Life's moving fast, and all of a sudden out of nowhere you go.
Big breath. Yeah.
Well, let's make this about gains because we got to look at all of the stress of your life. Sleep is a stress. Not sleeping is a stress. Interactions with your family, business
We're
work.
fucked.
Yeah.
Well, we have to call.
I got to worry about my goddamn small intestine over here.
that's
No
all-
one's getting out of this thing alive. That's a fact.
Not getting
But
unscathed.
if you put all of that stress into a box, basically hang that box on the barbell. So the issue for us is
Can you add it to your total?
you should add
training
to
is a stress.
Yep.
Lifting's a
Well,
stress.
it's
all
another
stress.
stressor. So, no desire to train, slept less than 7.5 hours, feel sore and crappy, maybe train differently. You know, maybe it's not max effort. Maybe it's some bodybuilding. Maybe
Sure.
you know what I mean? I think that's what we're not thinking about is our inability to manage the stress. So now I'm taking Ambien. Now I'm on the THC. Now I've had 3 beers. Those are all cues that you aren't turning off or know how to manage this.
Or know how to turn off.
And what we like to say is, look, if squatting heavy, big session, everything's going well in your life, you're eating, stress is managed, and just sleeping, like simple stuff, you're gonna eat the whole apple, right? But Matt here, traveling a bunch, totally stressed from work, fight with his girlfriend, not sleeping right, nutrition not on point, he only ingests a third of the apple. He gets the whole apple, but only gets a third of the apple. And that's what we want people to do, is create a ready state so that you can actually derive the best benefit from your training stimulus. And that's, I think, we're throwing a lot at the wall that doesn't stick because we haven't set the conditions where we can get the most out of the training stimulus.
I mean, I'm sure you've noticed that too. I mean, that's definitely something the older I've gotten with my training, the more I notice that the time I put in with trying to sleep correctly, trying to eat the right food, make the time that I spend in the gym more valuable. Instead of I'm fucking tired or I don't want to do this or I'm bummed out.
In finals, kids get injured more in college and in high school during finals. Straight up. Why?
Really?
Because they're not
Stress
sleeping.
and don't sleep.
You're not sleeping,
One-to-one correlation. You can see an injury spike. So you have to ask yourselves, what can we control? And let's stop pretending that we can't have some positive input. You know, and it's not complicated. I think that's the other thing. People think, how am I going to do all this? We had a conversation with a really interesting bodyworker woman on the site once. In this email, this guy came back. He's like, when the fuck do I do this? Like, I have a job and kids.
Right.
And he's like, this is all bullshit. And I was like, good point, sir. You know, because I agree that you can't create all these extra things. It has to be seamless, and it has to be always working on it. You know, and you just have to make the next step and take the small next step.
But explaining it to people in a simple way, you know, like for example, if you sit down at your desk all the time, you can get your book, right? But if you can just stand up and put one foot up on the chair for a few minutes while you're doing whatever it was you're doing, right?
Look at this podcast we're doing.
Stand and move.
It's a standing station, right? Yep. But none of us are standing alone. We're leaning.
We're leaning.
So it's not, and that's okay. Right. That's perfect because we're not sitting, and I'm not standing like I'm a statue. I'm able to lean up, and this is exactly my belly's just like I was at a bar.
And you keep rotating around.
Yeah. And so how do we get more movement in the day? So that's not one more thing I have to do. Right, so it's a lot easier if you have a moving station instead of a sedentary station. You can be moving. You can lean against a stool. You can lean forward on the desk.
People have a lot more time than they think too.
Yeah,
that's a lot on
That's true.
Activity.
It's prioritizing. You know,
that's the other thing.
Well, do you really
that
care about being big and strong or not?
I mean, I go for 20-minute walks after I eat pretty often.
It feels great.
And I don't always necessarily, quote unquote, have those 20 minutes to just go and do nothing. But to me, it's an important investment.
Right.
We try to do this thing that we call it the Barefoot Mile, where after dinner we'll just walk around the neighborhood with our girls, barefoot. Why? Because I'm never going to be doing foot strengthening exercises in the gym. Why? It's not a good use of my gym time.
Yeah.
Right? So, we put some of the foot strengthening barefootedness just into our routine. Just can I be barefoot? Sometimes I go to the gym and I don't put shoes on the entire day. And I have to go pick up my kids and put shoes on. I feel resentful. But I'm never going to do like, hey, let me strengthen my feet. Squatting strengthens my feet,
Right.
That's why I'm squatting in the first place. But if I can develop these practices, then it's a lot more sustainable and it simplifies my life. It means that when I'm in the gym, I get hot and sweaty.
I can train.
And I train.
I don't have to spend 45 minutes doing mobility because I've already added that into the other parts of my day.
That's what we want people to do. Streamline your life.
I just realized as we're standing here that this is the first episode that we've done with you at this table, and you inspired this table. So
it's the big things.
Yeah.
How'd you change my life? We have a table.
Well, it's taller.
I think it's great.
It's basically a bar.
Right. Truth.
It's great to point out to people, and some people know they're listening to this because they follow everything that we do, and other people are less informed. But we've all been friends for a long time, and we're all connected.
Right.
We're all connected very strongly through lifting weights, I guess you'd say, right?
Strength in general, barbell.
Yeah. I came and saw Kelly.
Obviously, I'm not as connected as you guys are.
Well, no one. Look, all three of us can't be the biggest and strongest. Someone's got to be on the bottom end of that totem pole.
Kelly,
that's what I always say.
You get to be the smartest, so you have that going on.
If we bench 3 days in a row, who's going to be strongest that day? Hard to tell.
Standing right here.
Right.
How swollen is your elbow, Mark?
Kelly gets to be the smartest, so there's that.
Yeah.
Best answer, anyway.
I understood like 6 words that you've said since we've been here.
He's handsome.
Right. He is that too.
Oh, shucks. Take it where I can get it.
I've whittled away at sports to find the one I'm good at.
But yeah, we've all been connected, for a while, and meeting him, and then, you know, you communicate for a while, and then communicating with you and talking to you for a long time, and Jesse Burdick, and you know, he's known Jesse before I knew him, and it's just interesting the way these things circle around. But he's talking about, you know, Highland Games. He's like, I don't know, my knee, you know. I'm trying to give him a little bit of advice because I know a little bit from you, but I'm like, it'd just be easier if why don't you just
go meet him, because movement's movement. Let's talk about
earlier about, you know, people trying to kind of like hoard these things, or people, you know, stealing stuff from other people. And I've always been a fan of, like, let me just say that Kelly Starrett did this. When I shoot a video, and if I'm talking about mobility, I'm like mobilitywad.com. There's a lot more information there. You can check out his book.
Yeah, we don't lose anything by showing our affiliations.
No, it makes you stronger. Yeah,
rising tide raise all ships, you know.
In my opinion, you know.
Well, it's funny how as we're moving forward, like, you can see potential for people coming into the network really who add value, and, you know, other people who don't, and you can kind of tell at this point, right? I mean, Jacob that we just had on, he's clearly a value add.
Yep,
and as he meets you guys, I think it's the greatest thing in the world. I get a little bit of thrill when I see somebody like that, somebody who's, you know, who's coming up, who's got has an established career.
Blossom with him.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. It's
too late for you, Matt. I'm out.
So Matt, you know, now have this pivot point of, you know, working for yourself.
Yeah, that's
so what's that scary jump like?
Man, it's definitely a scary jump to think that, well, this is the income. This is now how I provide for my family.
How long did it take you to get the news and then to call Mark and I?
30 minutes. Within the hour of having that phone conversation,
I was
just
like
looked
celebrating
at
on the other end.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm like, I can't celebrate because he's kind of. I think he's like,
it was a weird spot.
Mad and sad, you know. So.
You know, I mean, look, and the thing.
You know what that's called? It's called the narcissistic insult. Like, your ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Who you thought was a bitch and hated her, she shows up with a new guy, and you're like, oh, I hate that. Hate it. Yeah, it hurts.
You know, it was weird, right? Me. I mean, but it should be said that I'm glad that I spent the last 3 years without HVIII Brand being my only source of income building that business, because I got to build it the way I want to. That wasn't strictly because I had bills to pay.
Yeah, you can do the right thing for the right reason.
Right. However,
didn't have to be desperation.
Right, and I would have been really, really bummed 2 weeks ago, whenever the call got, you know, in that I was let go, had I looked at my wife and said, you know, I think I'm going to start an apparel brand. And she'd be like, you shit on the street here and get to work.
I got this thing, like, where I kind of hate myself. It's kind of hard to explain. There's going to be an
weird
H
letters,
and I and some B's, but it won't be HIV. It's complicated.
Just wait.
Instead of swans, it's going to be ducks.
Yeah.
Totally different. I remember how resistant you were to the whole thing too at the beginning. Like, I don't want to put all that effort into inventorying things, and I have no idea what's going to sell.
And all these things came across the right way. That like, then you don't have to do that.
And then what do you turn into too? Like, you end up like having like a customer service business model, and you're like, how did this happen? Why am I here?
I just want to lift weights.
Why do I have to answer people's questions about when they're getting their fucking shirt?
Yeah, no, it's been strange, and the pivot for me was like, you know, like, it was later that day when, like, okay, this is where we are. This is the new path. Let's stop feeling whatever we feel about any of that, and what's the next step? How do we go forward? And then how do we not only drive this way, but take where we are and go this way too?
This is actually an allegory we hear all the time in sport. You know, when people get safe, they stop taking the risks and doing the things that got them there. Right? I'm protected. And we see this actually in starting pitchers who get big salaries. Sometimes they're so scrappy. I'm going to make it, work my ass off. And they get there and they get protected. And I've heard this from 2 Cy Young Award winners.
They're throwing the hard pitches when they start out. And as they get older, they're safer.
That's right. And you actually start playing a very different game when you're a little bit desperate and hungry, you know, and you start thinking
100%
critically. And I think, you know, that's one of the things we can take away. Not this is like a lesson from Matt, but you know, if you play like you're a little bit desperate, you know, if you can commit that way, it really changes your intention. You know, I need to make this finals.
This has to work now.
Yeah, it has to work.
It was totally a thing. The thing that my wife's commented on since, you know, the change is she finds my brain is operating a much faster speed because of all this. It's no longer on this coast and neutral that, not that HVIII Brand was this coast and neutral, it's this thing I love and I'm very, very proud that I've built, but it has completely separated itself. It's no longer this hobby passion project. This is now what I do for a living, which that's producing videos now. It's informing people. It's creating new products and having designs and meeting with other people and then trying to figure out how to. Yeah, it's running a business, right? And it's the thing I looked at it after that was, well, this is what I wanted to do when I was 22. This is what I wanted to do when I opened the bike shop, and it just failed. And so not everything's a success. And now I'm back in a situation to run at it.
What you should do is sign up for a meet. Put yourself in a meet. And this is why we have to compete.
Bodybuilding contest.
Whatever.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. You better go compete. Because otherwise you can just train and train and train and train, and it's nothing really at stake. The second you cut a cord and there's a date on it, that's why competition is so important.
Especially if you
go jump in a powerlifting meet, even if it's a pull only,
whether you're ready or not.
I'm just jump into a deadlift meet. Joe Ken was saying that he just shows up for the deadlift meet and good enough. But it means he's got to show up and compete on that day. Big deal.
And I think
puts the pressure on you.
Man, competition's good for people, and I think people avoid it. I think we're in some weird world right now where we think
I think it's natural
losing's bad and competition, or that failure's bad. Like, man, I learned far more from failure. And failure can be different, really, right? So the first world championship I competed in as a Highland Games guy was 2011. I won an amateur game, and something changed. And instead of me getting an invite for the 2012 world championship, they're like, oh, you're at the one in 3 weeks. And I'm like, oh, okay. Cool then, and showed up and took second. I had no expectations on me as an athlete there. I'm supposed to finish 10th, and just went for it, right?
Yeah.
And then from that point on, it was like, well, what do I do here to win? And so that second place felt like a failure. And so the next year I was able to win, and there was a weird spot after I won of like, well, I don't have to go back to the drawing board. I just do that again?
Well, and you can even see it in your heavy lifting sets. I mean, not to try to make this real for people, Matt, but
it's about to get real. Real recognize real.
There's a reason that there's a max effort day for the day based on what's going on in your life, and when you put that on the bar, you practice in your head, but you still got to go do it.
Yep.
And I think we don't sometimes do a good job of connecting all the lessons in sport to how you practice taking risk, you compete, you have to be uncomfortable. I mean, this is
I max effort some burpees the other day, and the Smith Bros have never seen anything like it before, and they just
you broke them.
Well, I was doing some CrossFit shit with them, and I'm doing burpees, and I'm just breathing and going like I would normally bench 600. If I try to bench 600 pounds.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, I was just going. But I was putting as much force as I could into it, and I'm
no
breathing
pace whatsoever.
The normal breathing that I do in the gym, and so they just all stopped and were horrified and kept looking at me. I've never seen anybody jump that high before in a fucking burpee. Doing? I'm like, well, I need to get height so that I can get down faster and fucking get into position. But I was just going nuts and
bombing it,
trying to max effort it. And they were like, holy shit, that wasn't bad. But I can only do a few because blowing myself up.
Being uncomfortable in a ritualistic, regular way. Yeah. When I show up to the gym, I know I'm going to be uncomfortable. I know I'm going to confront, I'll just do one less set, or I'll take that 2.5 off, or I'll do one less interval, that you have to set it up. We right now have a sauna in the back of our yard, new sauna, and it is hot. It's so fucking hot.
Saunas are great. And
we also have an ice bath, and we're in the ice bath every day. And guess what? It doesn't matter how many times I'm in the ice bath, I'm like, oh, today's the day. It throws me out. Sometimes the sea just doesn't want it, right, Dave? And the idea here is that you got to practice being uncomfortable, and so you are so comfortable recognizing you're uncomfortable, and it's not an accident. You're able to take the next step, and you also looked around to your little training crew and you said, "Hey, am I right here? Should I take this? Should I take this leap or not?"
It felt really good to be able to have guys like you, which what I look at, right, is this inspiration of the direction I want to go. You guys are both, give or take, 8 to 10 years older than me? Or right around there, right? You're both in your 40s, and I'm in my 30s.
I don't even know.
Close enough.
I can't remember the syphilis.
And so it's been syphilitic brains been eaten alive.
By the spirochetes.
The spirochetes are talking.
I got the butthole of an 80-year-old. That's all I know.
It's good.
Not,
it's good age.
Not going so good down there.
Good pooping age, training age. And so having you guys to see who've already been through a lot of this, right? Of doing your own business.
Slangzilla.
Right. And so, man, that was a lot of confidence to be inspired, to be able to hear from you guys and have it said, yeah, Now's the time.
Last thing we should probably put on that pyramid, who are your training partners?
Yeah.
Who do you train with?
You're right.
I mean, if you're going to the gym by yourself, you can't do it.
Forever alone.
But you're not truly.
No.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the issue. You got to cultivate a group around you. What do they say? If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with someone else. You know, and Jocko, Jocko Willick, who's a good friend of ours, he's like, look, 2 is 1, 1 is none. I mean, that is such an old maxim. You have to create a training. You have to create a training group. And that helps. It helps you keep you accountable. Honest. Otherwise,
that name keeps coming up on this show lately, by the way.
I'll slay on the couch and do nothing.
Yeah. Well, you also have the videos, which make you accountable
to
everybody else, which is kind of like
I have dozens of Instagram followers and
training
YouTube
partner.
people that are interested in the things I'm doing in my garage, and I will
and
train and talk to them.
You can't fake that.
4 or 5 people in the course of a day are going to say something.
Exactly right.
If you squatted,
tens of people over a week.
You squatted the other day.
Yep.
Right? How much did you squat?
Squatted with a 50-pound weight vest on, with a Hatfield style holding.
So
something.
let's just say you fast forward a month from now, and you've already squatted 225. Now your brain's thinking, you know, it'd be cool if I squatted, especially for this video, it'd be cool if I squatted 315. Not that you're just doing it for the video, you're doing it for yourself.
No, but it's still showing that consistent progress.
It's part of it because you're trying to show people, like, I'm working towards this. I'm trying to do as many right things as I can. My knee was jacked up. You guys saw all that. I went through surgery, and now I'm kind of going through this process here. And that helps move the needle for you, for your company, the people around you. But when I was in here squatting yesterday, I was moving around with, I went 3 plates, 4 plates. I got to 5 plates, and I'm like, I moved it around for 2 sets, and I was like, I'm going to go to 6 plates because that's going to give this whole entire place a lot of energy because no one's seen me do that.
Oh, that's why you squat today.
Yeah, so it's like
they need it.
We get in the middle of it, and then I went 5.5 plates. I went 6 plates, and the whole place was fired up. And then Marcus, who's stronger and younger, he went in and banged it out for a double. But that's
stronger and younger.
Oh, that's what it's about, though.
Hell yeah, it is.
You know, that's how you move people.
Absolutely,
he wouldn't have done that if I didn't do that.
We're all sensitive to narrative.
Yep. Oh yeah, and
storytelling. We just are.
You're not alone. You're not alone. Quit. Start training with your friends. When you say, Matt, Kelly, we're showing up today, you know, one of the things I love that I always do to you, I'm like, Matt, you're like, what are we doing today? I'm like, you don't even know. And I drag you along.
It's always awful.
And I always drag you along.
Grabbed on my legs.
And you're always up for it. And I think that's what you need to be. You show up and you're always up for it.
Well, I mean, but I think that's part of
what
I've
always respected.
Internet has made us lazy.
You guys went on like a bike thing and all these different things, and he was sending me texts. He's like, oh my God, he's like, the Starretts are killing me. He's like, I need to get out of town.
I went and ran stairs. So, I went and ran stairs with him and Juliet. My wife was with us, and like Kelly's like, we got this. We did stairs with like a single arm carry, 100-pound kettlebell, or threw a med ball, or carried a med ball, a 100-pound ball. And so like we did those stairs, and then I was back over here to train the next day and ended up squatting 515 for 10.
Right.
And by the time I got back to him, like I just had oak legs. Just like everything from the waist were just like just awful.
Knees.
Like,
stupid.
But that's always what I've loved about athletes, right? Is that don't be so fucking fragile. Like, be willing to do a little conditioning. Be willing to be an athlete. Yeah.
I think we've, honestly, one of the things that was happening is we've completely stripped the train and joy. Like, you know, I think Louis did a good job of making impromptu contests. And I've only lived there once. I mean, you obviously know. But exactly what you did. You, like, hey, all of a sudden people were like, oh, what's happening here?
Yeah, let's party.
And that's the magic. And that's the fun. You know, if there's an advantage to all of this bullshit we're talking about, like, when's the last time you were super stoked and had a fun time in the gym? When's the last time you played?
Yeah.
I mean, you just, like, people are not doing enough of that. We've made it so serious. You know, I'm on my 5-3-1. I can't deviate. I couldn't walk up this hill.
I've been doing some circuits in the gym, just 3 or 4 different things at one time, moving around, getting a sweat, sprinting with the prowler, and going back and forth between that and 45-degree back raises.
You like training.
Farmers walks, and then
other
people like, oh, I'm going to join in. Like, they know, like, the misery of it. They understand, like, it's going to be a little rough.
But it's also fun.
It's 10 or 12 minutes. You know, we're not trying to like annihilate each other or anything, but yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, we need way more. Our technical term is dicking around. Way more dicking around.
One thing I really got from you that spoke volumes is the more we've hung out was this, you know, how do I know I'm on vacation? I've played a sport, I exercised, and I took a nap.
It's true. That's when I'm on vacation.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's the marker.
I love getting to go, you know, instead of my conditioning sitting on the assault bike in my garage, you know, just staring at the wall, I went for an actual bike ride. You know what I mean? And that's great. I want to be able to do more of that.
Really, we've made it so like here are my macros. I drink chicken breast and I eat this potato and this broccoli.
To get ready to do the fake work for the thing that's never going to show up.
There's a lot more richness to this. You know, there's this thing called pink salt, and it will change your life.
Yeah, Matt was hitting up Subway.
Yeah.
Coach,
chase up that pink salt.
Doing the Subway diet.
I can't eat it anymore. I just can't.
I can't either.
Can't do it.
Walter Reed.
There was like 3 or 4 times a day, like I would stop and eat Subway if I was on the road because I was like, well, I can get chicken, kind of chicken, and I can get spinach.
We were so broke. We were guides and instructors, and there's this crappy Subway where we were working, and some girl we flirted up who would put an extra chicken breast on the sandwich for nothing.
Golden.
And I don't know how many sandwiches I ate that summer, but I'm done.
All of them.
I'm out.
You can't do it anymore.
I'm out.
That
extra chicken sandwich.
That chicken's weird too.
Well, it's that's what happens when you have a business that big, right? Is because I remember the first time I went to Iceland, we'd stopped at a Subway, and the chicken breast looked like you'd grilled chicken breast at your house.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is awesome. And he got back home, and I was like, well, the reason it's this way is they make these reconstituted chicken nuggets because they're all the same size.
Right.
You know that each one of these that they pull out weighs
Standardization,
the exact same, and that no waste or this guy's sandwich got more chicken than the other one.
Right. So what you got going on right now, Kelly? We talked about this guy a lot, but like
currently,
what's
bring us up to speed. Well, we talked a little bit.
We got a
about
couple
this.
books in the hopper right now. We're Waterman 2.0 is a paddling project. It's really trying to improve mechanics on our passion. We work with a lot of professional paddlers from stand-up, prone, outrigger, and kind of all the paddling disciplines. I'm really excited about that book. It's a book that's like, I started paddling when I was 12, and this is my love letter back to community.
Supple Leopard, and then Desk Bound.
Yeah, and we wrote Ready to Run. So this is Waterman 2.0 is out, and we have another book about how to survive airplane travel.
Oh, I thought you were going to say zombie apocalypse. I'm like, I'm going to buy
same,
that right
same.
now.
Actually,
okay.
It's really the zombies
starts in a plane.
The zombies are already in the plane. Like snakes.
It's like snakes on a plane.
That's right.
Different.
And then trying to keep it simple. We got some teaching coming up. I'm just trying to as often as I can. My mantra is I need to be home with my kids. I want to not travel. I need time to think. I want to train.
Right.
I'm still training. The interesting conversation about you guys saying, what are the minimum things you can do? I've actually come to a realization that as an endurance athlete, I'm the fattest endurance athlete in the world.
Nice, I like that.
And the slowest now. Thank you. It's
Nothing
really
made me happier than hearing you talk about the boat race you did in Hawaii. The Molokai.
That was
just like
I saw you
6
just right
hours
afterwards.
grinding it out.
6.5.
These old dudes in better boats were just like, what's he doing? Is he lost?
He's dying.
Well, I got to the start line and I borrowed a boat in Hawaii because you can't.
You may as well have done it on a boogie board.
Pretty much. A diet boogie board, and there were two. David, I was talking about this morning. There's 2 women in the same boat, and those are the only other people in the boat. It's these 135-pound women. I literally looked to the right and was like, I'm so
I'm in the wrong boat.
There's like 50 kilometers of open ocean in front of me, and in the first minute, I was already behind them. Like you can't out paddle me in 20 seconds. You just can't. Like I am really strong, really fit, and a really good paddler.
Being the fattest
and
paddler.
I could not keep up with the 2 women in the same boat. And
There's the headwind.
Yeah. His lats are so big, he just catches so much more.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing now, I've finally realized that the conversation about training quality is that I've realized that 3, 4, 5 model is going to serve me right for the rest of my life. As long as I can bench 3, squat 4, and deadlift 5, I'm literally strong enough to do everything that I want to do. So how much do I need to put in to maintain that? Because honestly, I'm 235. I'm pretty skinny, but I'm 43. This is my old man weight, but I don't want to be any bigger. Right. And I actually put a lot more rest intervals in my sets, and it's fun. But I really like lifting weights.
You brought up a really interesting point, and everybody always talks about improvement and progress. And sometimes when you're dealing with high-level athletes, or you're dealing with somebody who doesn't maybe want to be as competitive anymore, those types of things, what's wrong with just being able to sustain
like an improvement
what you've had?
Right?
If you could run the same 40-yard dash you did when you were 18, that's a major fucking victory, right?
Yeah, that'd be good. And people are always like, strength is never a weakness, right? And I'm like, well, it is when you have to paddle for 6 hours, right? Over 100 kilos, right? That actually is
where your training was adding to your total instead of super smart.
So I think what's interesting though is is this goal. I think one of the things that's happened in the internet is that we have forgotten what it's like to actually program for actual athletes doing sports. And so you look at everyone's amazing programming, and it only takes 4 hours in the gym, and you have no energy or time to actually go do a sport. And the track athletes were on this the first and doing it the best. Football athletes also, because you had to lift weights and go play football. And probably WWE is another example. You know, and you know, with wrestling, there's a body composition component to it. Right, with some of these, you know, but how do we lift and train and still have enough in the tank? And I think that's actually become a little bit of a lost art and something we don't talk about very much. You know, right now everything's focused on who I am in the gym, not how I express that strength. And you said it even earlier. I have been weight training for a sport since I was 15.
Which you know is a really big difference to me. That means that. You know, if you're training for a sport that doesn't involve the amount of weight you're putting on a bar, everything I'm doing in the gym is GPP. If it's not, if what I'm doing is hindering me throwing further, if it's not power that I'm going to be able to translate later into a further distance or being able to accelerate and implement, like stop.
We talked earlier about a heavy deadlift being associated with a certain cost. You know, it's gonna cost you a lot.
I started using a belt over 400 because my nervous system wasn't cooked.
And so
that means I could go out and like actually, you know, pull faster.
Does it make sense for an athlete to, you know, bang out 6 or 8 sets of deadlifts that are heavy? Like it may be like if it's off season, but like during the season, certainly not. It costs too much. They can't afford. Yeah. Maybe I can afford, and maybe some of us at this table can afford to limp around for a few days because we wanted to go for that big deadlift, or we wanted to spend some extra time on a deadlift. But a lot of athletes can't afford that.
No, you just can't. I mean, that's with my competition season. Like I said, like 20 games in over a 6-month period. I mean, I'm basically doing 4 or 5 competitions in a row over 5 weekends. And
I don't want to temper this conversation by the fact that there are a lot of people doing sports who are weak and not conditioned. Right? That's true. So first, show me you can work hard and get under some load, and then we'll temper your volume back. But we have sort of fetishized barbell training, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, and said this is the way we do everything. You know,
if you get better at this, clearly your sport will get better.
Right. In fact, one of the best coaches in the world I know is a guy named Stuart McMillan at Altus. He has more.
Charlie, you can let those guys in here.
He has more gold medals, more Olympic medals coaching than anyone I know except for Dan Pfaff, his other coach, right? His mentor. And Stuart posted this morning and said, hey, you know, sprinting has more in common with dancing than it does with weightlifting.
Interesting.
And I think the idea here is, you know, looking at positions and not necessarily fetishizing barbell training as the only way to get stronger or get better. You know, we know Harry Mara, who is he's the coach for all the last decathletes. You know, Adam Elston, who you know, the Olympian superstar. But he said he pulled out a lot of the heavy training, made sure his athletes could be explosive and actually show up and compete. And sometimes we forget about, does my athlete feel poppy today, and are they excited to train?
And that changes for me a ton during my season because toward the end of my season when I'm really trying to peak and be at my best, like me squatting a max weight, there's way too much risk of injury, and 2, it doesn't serve me any fucking good in my sport. Me squatting, you know, over 6 or 7, you know, at 700 pounds and grinding something out for 2 seconds on the way up doesn't translate to me throwing something that weighs 50 pounds.
But your off season has historically had a lot of volume in it.
Of course, right. Well, I'm so beat up by the time
20 by 20, is that what you call it?
10 by 10.
Well, also too, I mean, you can. So there is that. Like you're going to have parameters, but then you're also going to have some goals, and you're also going to want to like feel good. I think you came here one time and squatted 500 for like 10.
Right.
So there's going to be like a time where you do want to occasionally just kind of go for it. Your body should be able to go to that, but
that was
you
still
also
500
shouldn't
for 10.
have to.
That wasn't 700 for 2.
Right.
Right. And that's the way I decide to push my.
And there's no competition the next
way.
day necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? You know, that's how I try to push my limits.
I think maybe you did that before you compete. I think you competed a couple days later.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
But it was an early season competition, and so with you know, that's the other side for an athlete. At some point for me with the season that many games, like I can't peak for 20 games. So some of these just don't matter.
Well, and the point is too is that you're conditioned enough where you can go in and train 2 days prior to an event, which most athletes should be able to do stuff like that.
Well, and you know, when I went in Palmolo, you know, this Molokai solo, you know, 2 days before,
speaking another language,
I went
water.
I went and deadlifted, and I pulled some heavy singles. Lots of rest in between. Why? Because it wakes me up and connects the whole system. If I don't front squat and pull, my body doesn't work anymore. That's what I find. If I don't get under some load, it doesn't feel right. My body just doesn't work. So it's an interesting conversation about what's the minimum dose to have the max output.
We had Jen Thompson in here a few weeks ago, and we were talking about like do you take a break? Do you take a deload before a meet? No, just no. Didn't work for me. Don't do that.
No, she does. She just trains right through it. Pretty much
trains right through it.
Well, we've actually heard this from a lot of our top athletes who say, "Hey, look, people are taking the day off. That's the worst day. Don't take the day off the day before. 2 days before, take a day off. If you're going to take a day off, it doesn't mean you need to smash yourself, but like
no, but you could go in there and do a solid warm up. Maybe hit 3 sets of 10 at like a 60% just to wake the body up and remember like we got work to do. Like we're not on full rest and recovery now.
Yeah, they're also kind of finding out that like a taper is like it's not a process that happens in a confined space. It could be more like over a whole month.
Right.
So somebody might taper down their volume a tiny bit, little by little, but the intensity may be high, for an example of a powerlifting meet, because you're going to actually do the powerlifting meet itself, which is bench, squat, deadlift, so you're going to be practicing those movements. But maybe all through your training, you were using 8 sets and 2 sets and all these different things. Now you're just going for singles, getting the feel of the weight, getting a feel of the lift, and the break, if there is a break, happens 2 weeks in advance rather than an actual week in advance. And it's not like a full week off. It's
not
just
like sitting on the couch.
Percentages are reduced, and then the week beforehand you go to about 80%, and a lot of that information has spilled over from track because James Smith has had a heavy influence on Juggernaut, Chad Wesley Smith. And Chad Wesley Smith has had a big impact on the reason why you see everybody squatting 3 times a week and deadlifting 3 times a week and so on.
It's still, it's still going to be the accumulation of work over time. It's still what's going to get you to your goals. And it's got to be done consistently, and it's got to be done with a path and a plan.
You got to do it consistently.
I don't want to.
Yeah, I think we're trying to get people to just remember, you should go do a sport once in a while. Like you should actually go use this.
You're talking about playing basketball.
Yeah, we'll shoot some hoops. That'd be great for the knee.
Shooting hoops.
Hoops.
I'm into layups lately.
It's a single leg. It's all single leg.
That's it.
Yeah, well, it's
go chuck around a football or some shit like that. I mean,
anything. Just go fart around. We've just lost. We lost the play.
Stuff.
And
dick
also,
around.
And also
water balloon fight.
When you're training people,
grab ass,
remember that we want them. They
They
still gotta have something in the tank for some fun.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to get obsessed about your perfect squat that existed on that one day in January back in '89 at 212 pounds.
Dude, I'm still trying to hold on to that. Kelly, I remember a while back you were on. I think it was 2020, correct? Some sort of big TV, something like
60 minutes.
60 minutes. Sorry,
I was also on The View.
my numbers. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, you've been on a bunch of different things, but I remember at the time, I was like, "Oh, congratulations!" I recorded. I was hyped up and stuff, and you were appreciative. You liked that you were on there and stuff, and whatever. I congratulated on it, but you basically just you said nothing really changes for us, and I really liked that quote a lot because it's important for people to understand. There's meeting a significant other or something that's just on another level. That's a whole other thing. Sometimes you have a mentor, and that's a different thing. But there's not going to be like one single event that's going to happen. It's really going to change much of anything.
You just said accumulated volume, right?
Yep, that's it.
Kick today in the dick ends up on Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah.
Cool, right?
Right.
And
It's
then
a spike.
and you sell a bunch,
You
and
didn't
For a
retire?
day. No, it didn't work out that well.
yeah.
It worked out great, and it was great for us.
Right.
That was a huge day, and we still laugh about it. It's November 2nd. That's Joe Rogan.
I think it's important for people to understand.
Dick Day,
Sometimes
national holiday.
That's Dick Day.
I'll get people that will, they'll hit me up and say, "Oh, it'd be great if you give me a shout out or something, or like it'd be cool to meet, or all these different things, right?" And yeah, like it would be great, but have the confidence in yourself to know that doesn't really fucking matter that much.
Doesn't change anything.
Hopefully, we all do run into each other. Hopefully, I do have a chance to shake everybody's hand or whatever it might be, and hopefully, you guys have a chance to meet your fans and stuff like that too. But people really need to understand there's not going to be like one single moment that's going to change anything.
Yeah,
Right. I think people can see how big your booth and all this stuff, like say at the Arnold, right? See this in this crowd, and then you being able to reach out and support guys like Brian Shaw and hand cash to athletes and lifters across different sports. But what they're not seeing is 5 years ago at the Arnold, with people going, "What's that thing?"
Yeah.
And random people putting it
it
on and
makes
making
it
a bench
harder.
press, right? Yeah, this doesn't work for me.
But
You know what I mean?
Boxes of slingshots in your garage.
Yes.
Right.
And still having to
don't
have a
see
bench
that.
in the
people
booth.
don't see your garage and you guys doing it by hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% right around, the grind is the glam. Go do work, be consistent. I mean, all of those. There's never going to be there's never a turning moment. I think if you were
there's peaks and valleys, just like anything else. There's going to be spikes where something cool happened and you get some more traffic or something like that. But none of that's this whole thing that changes, your business overnight.
Yeah. No, and what you need to do is continue to work. I think we just there's no substitution for training age, work age. J-Star just read a book. That's my wife, and I think it was called Grit or about grit. And it turns out
J-Star Sushi. I sent you that picture. In Manhattan, downtown Manhattan.
She's secretly running it. It's money laundering.
Yeah, hell yeah, it is. Oh, whoops.
Never mind.
That if you took two people, one's really talented, one's less talented, the person who just hangs in there for longer is always going to do better. You don't have to show up and be heroic. Show up and be consistent. And let's be consistent for the next decade. I mean, a fundamental thing that changed my life around training our kids was something Matt said. Someone asked you. Nice. Yeah. Someone asked you once, you're like, well, how do you get strong? And you're like, it's easy. Squat heavy once a week for 10 years. Yep. Let me know what you discover, right? Yeah. And I was like, well, what happens if I just make my daughter squat once a week for next 10 years?
How's she doing?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, she's all right. Just fine. And the idea here is there's just you're not going to have that magic moment, and you just can't see the grittiness behind it. Nothing changes for us. We go back and do the same thing we're doing. We're actually having the same conversations we all did 10 years ago,
right.
Honestly.
And by definition, right? I mean, through the process or journey of whatever it is
shirt now.
Running your business or training, most days are going to be average, just by definition.
But you better training.
Enjoy training because most of the days are just going to be a regular day that you're just doing the work. You're going to have great days, but you're probably going to have as many shitty days as you do great ones.
And I always tell people this: being great is just a byproduct of being good for a long period of time. Yeah. Doing the shit you're supposed to do.
Set up your life so that people around you, at least through the work that you're doing, you enjoy. Like, I get to go to work with really great people. Right. I enjoy the work. I think that's. Wish
I could say the same thing. This place that don't.
Andy. I think that's the thing that people are sort of kind of get confused is they're. I think Gary Vaynerchuk said it really well. It was on my brain.
My buddy.
It's your buddy.
Yeah, my boy. Yeah.
Slingshot ambassador.
My homie.
He's like, look, if you're living for the weekend, your shit is broken.
Yeah.
I think that's the best.
Yeah.
Dude, I barely know what day it is.
Yeah.
Weekend? The fuck does that mean anymore?
Well, especially now, right?
Well, I was
where are my clothes? I lost my clothes. All I have is a swamp.
What day is it? April? Great.
So, but I think that's the idea here is that you've got to building consistency. You can't say I'm going to go out and PR. I'm going to total 1,000. You need to say I'm going to squat heavy today. And eventually you'll get to 1,000. What's what I hear.
We're fighting a war of attrition too because other people aren't going to last as long as you.
Grit, and that was exactly what J-Star was saying in that book. The person who hangs in there becomes wealthy. The person who hangs in there, their job isn't magical, but they make the best of it. They create the situation around it.
Well, you were with CrossFit for a long time, and you had a lot of great things going on, and now you're not directly with them anymore, correct?
Yeah.
But what does it change?
Everything.
It changes some things with some of your business model and stuff.
No, it was like that talk about being.
But it doesn't hurt you, I guess, is my main point. Because you already built a brand, you already built a company, and you're you.
Well, we had all we had been doing with CrossFit was running our course. We had the course independently. We were running with CrossFit, and then it didn't work anymore. Their back end didn't work. They weren't interested in what we were doing, and so we actually took a huge revenue hit. To not go play in their sandbox, to shift to understand that we need to get online set up, and and sometimes you got to retool. Sometimes they had a surgery, and also it was easy working for CrossFit relative to the courses, and we support it. CrossFit has this model where they'll do nothing for you. They'll give you the platform and let you do it all for yourself, which is fine. And they're really transparent about it.
But it's their platform.
It's their platform, and they're very nice to let you play with their toys. Right. And then when we said, "Hey, we think we can do this ourselves," I was like, "We can do this ourselves," And it's the same thing of, "Hey, I lost my nest egg," and I was like, "Look, I believe in what we're doing." That's why you got to put yourself on a meet. You got to expose yourself. You got to be vulnerable. You got to do that. You got to recognize that every time you're setting yourself up for being a little uncomfortable, that's the thing.
Well, that comes part of the you know, you put yourself out there enough and you compete, and you don't get used and comfortable to failure, right? But you figure out how to sidestep so that failures aren't this destruction force in your life. This is just like, oh shit, that didn't work. Now I can go this way.
Right.
We were just talking about, you know, stand-up comedians. You know a lot of comedians, and you know, one of the interesting things about it is the feedback is so tight. You suck at your job.
Oh my God.
You find out that
It's
day.
not a 6-week wait on like,
It's
we think
quiet.
the shirt's going to sell, and then it just
That's right.
crickets.
And so you find is that those guys are A, master communicators,
bad.
men and women, and B, you know, you really get this really interesting feedback about getting better and better and better. And I wish we had. There's a thing we're doing a lot more of in our programming and how we work, and that's trying to block behavior so that I get 1 or 0. Like, you know, if here's an example. If I wake up and I'm like, I don't know how I feel today. You know, maybe I'll try. If I get in the ice tank and I can last 3 to 8 minutes, I'm like, oh, I'm good to go.
Crazy
If I get in the
bastard.
ice tank and I start shivering in 30 seconds, I'm like, oh, because I can't fake it.
No.
You know, and that's the issue is I got to put myself into situations where I can no longer bullshit or fake it. I have to shit or get off the pot. I have, at some point we're like, this is all great. There's the fucking bar. Get under the bar. You know, shut up. You know,
At some point, you got to put more weight on the bar if you want to get stronger.
right. Well,
You
so
can't just fucking
so
lie
I think
about it.
that's this issue is we need to put ourselves in situations where we have to get better. You know, one of our good friends
Is that what kind of made you guys make the decision to do your own thing?
that was part of it. It's like, hey, look, we need to. There's a whole lot of things we can do that we can't do in this current environment.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a lot more on us, and we were like, we're ready for that. You know,
My
we're
son,
ready
you know,
to take it.
he does YouTube videos and stuff, and he edits really well, and he does a lot of good stuff on there. So I was like, Jake, I was like, you should do some stuff. You know, it'd be great if you did some stuff for super training. And he goes, I work for myself only.
Dad.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
And
greatest
Andy's
thing I've
like,
ever heard.
I wonder where he got that from. But there is.
You don't own me, man.
That's right.
I ain't no living in no cage, man.
Yeah, I don't need your
Yeah, I was like,
subscribers.
okay.
They're not my demo.
But there is nothing better than working for yourself. I mean, now you can,
Yeah.
whatever
It's not for everyone.
creativity you want
It's
to.
really uncomfortable.
No.
Well, I mean, the difference is, right, it's the old adage of like, well, I could be very, very comfortable in the job I was working 40 hours for these people, or I can work 80 hours a week for me.
That's right.
And so
And take a pay cut. It's great.
yeah, and take a pay cut.
But I say
don't
when,
have to fucking
I say
answer it
who,
anyway.
I say much, how much I say when. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what Pretty Woman meant to me.
And so now
she
let me
worked
get
for
this
herself.
right. This is now my job. I get to come hang out and talk to my friends.
It's not a job. Juliet called this a field trip today.
It's
Oh,
kinda-
she's like, oh, you're going to have a little field trip? I'm like,
Field
this
trip.
is work.
This is work.
I am.
You
this is called
understand.
professional development. You understand. So I express myself.
We got first world problems all
That's what I
over
say.
the table
Anytime the
here.
wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Working."
Yeah, you don't.
What are
don't
you
understand.
doing?
You'll
Walking
never-
around with this
Here, take
camera. I'm
this
working.
little check, put it with the rest.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, you know,
First world
you got
problems.
you got to set it up so it's 1 or 0, and you know you can do a lot better, and you're probably gotta get comfortable failing. You fail a lot.
So
Failure happens.
speaking of that, speaking of being comfortable failing and being comfortable making a giant leap of faith, why don't you two guys come over here for a second? Yeah, come on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
So these two guys,
Oh,
Yeah.
Matt just knocked it. Nick.
What's up, Steve?
What's up, man? Matt, how are you?
these two
shirt.
guys have made a trip from
How are you?
Connecticut
It's a good looking shirt.
to basically try out to be part of the super training media team.
Whoa.
And
gnarly.
so kind of all the different things we're talking about maybe not about working for yourselves because then that means they're going to leave me, but
One
all,
day.
yeah. All the
Go
different
fly.
things we're talking about, making a leap of faith. These guys came all the way from fucking Connecticut today, 6:30 a.m. on a flight out here.
Oh, yeah. Almost missed our connecting one. It was close.
Left my house.
Look at he's got a San Francisco CrossFit.
I know. I was
shirt.
say. Obviously,
plan that.
2 men into 1 man leaves.
Through the ringer quick, boys.
All right, guys.
I got this last year. I went to your gym, and I signed up for your class, but
Was he there?
He bounced
I
on you.
have people for
He was
that.
very
now.
bad.
All right. For now, you guys are off the team. I just want to introduce you real quick.
I was probably in town getting tortured.
We need to wrap this one up because we've already lost one camera and we're about to lose another one.
And we, I think we broke a record today.
I know we did. Yes. But these are the guys I want to break a record with.
I know.
yes.
And the record's this. This is the longest that Jim and I have ever hung out with two biggest losers like
Nice,
ourselves.
I like that a lot.
And I really want to
I'm the
congratulate you
smallest loser at
guys.
this table.
I goddamn get up at 3 in the morning to fly
my
to California
God,
to be cursed at.
Look, you know, it's fun. I mean, we've known each other for a decade, Jim, but these are two of my best friends on the planet. It's
Yep.
pretty fun. Literally find people you want to hang out with. I think Vonnegut calls that a harass.
Yeah.
It's a group of people that God...
A murder is what I would call it.
It's a group of people that God gets together to get work done for her, I think is how he describes it, And I don't know. And you keep bumping into someone, obviously you're my harass, so harass boys.
Nice.
Not crass, harass.
I got it.
Yeah.
Want to let people know where to reach you guys and your websites and da-da-da-da-da.
You go.
I know you guys don't care because you're large
Yeah,
and in
that's
charge.
exactly
No,
what we
we're-
are. Please send me your money.
Yeah.
At Mobility WOD, WOD, workout of the day at mobilitywod.com. We're there, and we're on your side. We're trying to help it make it more simple for you. I think there's a lot.
Thank God I need fucking help.
I think
I'm
there's a lot
busted
of
up.
low hanging fruit on the table. So, I mean, literally we can take out the
Especially
system. We're
after you
getting
get
there.
out of the hot tub, you know what I mean?
That rough
Hanging
hot
low.
No,
tub
I'm good.
life.
I'm good.
Matt Vincent, you can find me on YouTube, Matthew Vincent, on Instagram at I Hate Matt Vincent, and thehate.com is the brand.
I think it's appropriate for this podcast after something you said about not traveling the world as much anymore and staying home and being with your family. Remember, this quote I said a while back is that the greatest way to have an impact on the world is go home and love your family. Multiply your hustle, multiply your muscle, and may all your shits be tapered. I'm at Mark Smellybell on Instagram and Twitter. Later.
Shout out to all of our sponsors, 8-Man Strong Apparel at 8manstrong.com, bodybuilding.com for all your supplement needs, Compex USA for cutting-edge muscle stim machines. Get 28% additional percent off with the code PowerCast. Increase your bench at howmuchyoubench.net. Power, the only strength magazine, available in both digital and print at thepowermagazine.com. Precision Nutrition. Get the free course, especially for our listeners, at get.pn/powercast. That's get.pn/powercast. And Health IQ, a life insurance company with special rates for weightlifters. See if you qualify today by going to healthiq.com/powercast and support this show by doing so. I'm the Jim McD on all the social media. Follow the show on Instagram. We are at Bros PowerCast, and we are out. Longest PowerCast.
Buy
ever.
some hate brand stuff. Matt doesn't have a job.
No, please. You can just send us money. We'll have a donate page.
Go fund me.
Yeah, go.